How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.
inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final fight. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to get used by you. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be out you. Won't anybody help us? What are we running for? When there's nowhere we can run to anymore. We can't afford to be innocent. Stand up and face the enemy. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible. And with the power of conviction, there is no sacrifice. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible.
Who the fuck is Karlyn? She's just some sweet lady. She's like in a knitting. She does like a knitting stream. She's like a knitting YouTuber. She does knitting.
Can we grow up a little bit and
Alt
not
Girl
be
sent $200.
retarded?
Have you
Please.
seen the work of Karlyn Borysenko? Anti-commie cult leader and is obsessed with looking at what actual far-left communists are talking about and organizing today, infiltrating them. They infiltrated the universities, schools, media. She has the receipts to back it up. Primary source evidence. Infestation is dire and she calls Republicans idiots eating slop. Agree.
Thank you for the big super chat. Yeah, oh, I know Karlyn B. She's solid. She's funny. I
The
like
great
her.
noticer sent $200.
Literally.
So
Not
it's,
Ian.
it's not a because I haven't dangled my junk into the combat zone on purpose to get some camera footage, but that's the big part of what's the
Is
problem.
that what you call reporting?
Go
and live
under if
streaming?
you're going to do it.
Yeah,
go
seriously.
undercover. Otherwise, you're wearing a hunk of meat in a lion's den. Nick Shirley, I love you. Take care of yourself, man. Karlyn Borysenko went undercover. Do stuff like that. Like if you want to expose this thing, don't pariah.
But
Please.
Ian, here's and I agree with you to an extent.
What's up? I would never start my stream with the microphone muted. That would never happen. I would never do that, especially on a Monday. As you know, I'm a professional streamer on the internet. I'm a professional. I would never do that. Well, it's been an interesting day for me so far. Breaking news, professional streamer award, professional streamer on the internet award goes to me. Hey, actually, I don't want to hear anyone complaining. I don't want to hear anyone complaining about the professionalness of my streaming, because guess I am. Oh, fuck you. Oh God. Oh, why would you curse me like that, sir? Why would you do that to me? Oh no. Like, can someone like the power of Christ compels you? The power of Christ compels you. No. Let's just put that whole notion. We're not manifesting that shit. I'm telling you right now, we are not manifesting that. But I do have important Rumble news. Are you guys ready for the Rumble news? Are you guys ready? Guess what? I have been annoying Chris Pavlovsky in his Twitter replies for months and months and months. And listen, I don't think that my demands are too crazy here. I do not think that my demands are too crazy. I'm not the biggest streamer on Rumble, that's for sure. There are many, many bigger people than me. I have like 6,000 subs on Rumble. I have a dedicated Rumble audience that I appreciate. And you know what? I want to be able to serve my Rumble audience better than I can currently serve them, because there are several problems with Rumble, but I'm going to focus on two. The two biggest issues that I have with Rumble is that it does not integrate with StreamYard. StreamYard is an extremely common streaming software. Every other streaming platform integrates into StreamYard. And because it doesn't integrate into StreamYard, I can't put the Rumble chat on the screen along with every other chat. And so I feel like Rumble are our redheaded stepchildren. There are redheaded stepchildren. I know they're there. I can see the chat, but I would like to be able to feature the Rumble chat on the screen just like we do with YouTube or Kick or X. No, I'm not going to try Rumble Studio. No. Why on earth would I use the proprietary software of one streaming platform? That's fuck off retarded. That's one of the most retarded possible decisions you can make. Rumble needs to integrate with common tools in the marketplace if they want people to go all in on Rumble. I'm not changing my entire fucking streaming setup that works extremely well on every single platform except for Rumble. So no, I'm certainly, if Rumble can't do basic things, I'm certainly not switching my entire operation over to Rumble Studio. That's retarded. But let's celebrate some things for a second. We got Mayhem as a member for 4 months. Thank you for being a member of the channel, Mayhem. We got Dougzilla starting us off strong today with a gifted channel membership. Thank you so much, Doug. I appreciate that. We will add that to the tally, which is a little sparse right now, but don't worry. We'll get more. It'll be fine. So, grievance number one with Rumble is that it doesn't integrate with StreamYard, and I'm not switching over to Rumble. That's not going to happen. Grievance number two is that I want a way to be able to communicate with my Rumble channel members privately. I can do that very easily on YouTube. I can make a post in the post tab in the community, which goes out to every single person who is a channel member, and I can restrict access just to channel members and supporters. I have perks that I give to channel members and supporters that I cannot easily communicate to the people on Rumble because Rumble gives me no way to communicate with the members of my channel. Well, Karlyn, don't you just use locals? I do use locals. Rumble channel membership is not the same thing as locals. We tried that. That was what I thought was happening. I thought Rumble's integration with locals was that channel members would become local supporters. That makes the most sense to me. But no, that never happened. Rumble never did that development. And so literally, I do have a whole bunch of locals members. I appreciate them as well. I appreciate everyone who supports me on there. Rumble channel member is a different thing, though. And one of the ways we basically fund my work in the chat is we gift out channel memberships. W's in the chat for Ninja Artists. Anytime someone gives a channel membership, we want to be able to give them W's because they're not only supporting my work, they're supporting the community. So it's like a twofer. And so on YouTube, I can communicate privately with people who are YouTube channel members to give them perks, which provides incentive for people to make gifts of channel memberships because they know this isn't just like an arbitrary thing. Like, members actually do get things on my channel. Members get access to Spy Stream, which is the best thing I do. We go inside live leftist calls and we watch them live. So I'm literally breaking news with a live audience in real time. I'm doing undercover journalism in real time with a community of people. And that is usually only open to channel members. And on YouTube, I can send the Spy Stream information out to channel members. On Rumble, I can't do that. And there is no way for me to do a Rumble-only stream unless apparently I use Rumble Studio, which I am completely unwilling to do. So I don't think my requests are too insane. And quite frankly, my requests are something that YouTube is already doing. So all I'm saying to Rumble is, I fully understand the free speech message. I respect the fact that you haven't kicked Nick Fuentes off your platform. I see that Rumble in the long term is a much safer option for me than YouTube because YouTube shadow bans my shit all the time. If YouTube wasn't shadow banning my content, I would have way more fucking subscribers. But luckily, I have a dedicated community of people who fund my work, and so that is how I'm funded, and so I get to keep going because of that. But I'm not relying on YouTube. The fact is, my YouTube channel could get taken down at any moment. That is a very real thing. I would love being able to push more into Rumble than I currently do. But I cannot do that unless Rumble is developing the platform to do the basic things that YouTube already does. And I would love for them to do that. Hey, thanks, Doug, for being a member of the channel for 7 months. 7 months of awesomeness. Keep up the great work. I really appreciate that, bro. We got old Sub in, the champion, the king, with 5 gifted channel memberships. Old Sub, I got breaking news for you in a sec. Don't worry, bro. I've got a car update in a moment. But we're going to deliver the good news. And ding, ding, ding over on Rumble. Thank you for the super chat. I wish I could display it on the screen, but maybe I will be able to soon. Really great job on getting this task with Rumble. Thank you. See, I'm not the only one who wants Rumble to integrate with StreamYard. People on Rumble want Rumble to integrate with StreamYard. This is a win-win-win. So I have been in Chris Pavlovski's replies literally for months going, when are you going to develop your platform? When are you going to develop your platform? When are you going to develop your platform? When are you going to develop your platform, Chris? And he almost always responds with the same thing. What suggestions do you have for us? Okay, that's a perfectly adequate response if I actually thought they were taking my input seriously. But I never did think they were taking my input seriously because every time I would be in his replies saying, please develop the platform, Chris Pavlovski would reply to me and say, what would you have us do? So, and then I would literally tell him the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. So I literally had a copy and paste reply for every time Chris Pavlovski responded to me saying, what would you like us to do when I was bugging him in his replies to improve the platform? I literally had a copy paste reply where I said, I need you to integrate with StreamYard and I need you to give me a way to privately communicate with my Rumble channel members. And I would also say, we've had this conversation before, and I would link him to previous tweets where I had told him exactly the same thing. So I've been on his ass about this. And again, I may be annoying, but I don't actually think I'm being unreasonable here. And if he wants us to go all in with Rumble, then he needs to bring Rumble up to the basic capability that YouTube already has. And then we can discuss other things about how Rumble's probably botting views. And then we can discuss other things about the really gross and pathetic cringe ads that are on Rumble. I have other grievances too. Don't get it twisted. But like, we need a baseline level here of me being able to function and serve my audience on Rumble in the same way I can on YouTube. So I decided to try a different tactic today. And when Chris Pavlovsky was like, we're going to give you the ability to change the homepage, I was like, Chris, I don't give a flying fuck about the homepage. I don't. I said, can you please, for the love of God, just integrate with StreamYard? Maybe a little bit more direct, but I feel like I've asked several times very nicely. And Chris Pavlovsky, to his great credit, and I will always give credit where credit is due, replied to me within an hour and said, Rick Rack, who I guess is their developer, I don't really know who that is, but they're their product guy. Rick Rack just emailed them to get this going. Now we are waiting on StreamYard to respond. You're welcome, Rumble. You're welcome. You guys think I don't like you on Rumble? I want to bring you into the community on Rumble. You guys think I ignore you on Rumble? I am getting Rumble to finally do what it literally should have done years ago and just integrate with StreamYard like a sensible streaming platform. And soon, hopefully, fingers crossed, we will be able to display the Rumble chat in StreamYard and celebrate when they send in channel memberships and super chats and put their stuff on the screen. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. So Rumble, I just want credit. I'm an Aries. I want credit for things. I just want credit for being your advocate, Rumble. I never gave up on you. I was annoying your CEO for months and months and months. And look, we finally got results. We're making progress. If everyone can go over and just thank Chris Pavlovsky for this. Actually, can people do that? Can everyone go over and just give Chris Pavlovsky a W in the reply and thank him, and then gently ask him to provide me ways to communicate with my members privately and do everything else YouTube does? That would be fucking great, Chris. Because I mean, W. Good way to start the week out on a W. I took the channel membership banner down. What the fuck am I doing? We are 7% of the way to our channel membership goal today, guys. We are going to be getting into some socialism, but I have a couple things to cover first. And then after I cover a couple of things, we are going to watch the stream that the Socialists in Seattle did yesterday for Red May. Red May, or Radical Revolutionary Socialists in Seattle. Apparently, this is the last Red May, and I'm very sad about that because Red May provides us with some of the most amazing socialism content. As an aside, we need to make a mental note to archive the Red May YouTube channel at some point. Like, we need to download all their shit and archive it somewhere, because I'm slightly worried that Philip will take it down at some point, and I don't want Philip to be able to take it down. I want to put all this stuff up on archive.org or something like that, because Philip doesn't believe in intellectual property. He's not going to be on my ass for that. But like, I don't want this content to disappear from the internet, because there's still a ton of Red May content that we haven't watched. Red May has been going on for a long ass time. Okay. Just, we're adding it to the list. Oh, by the way, I told you guys, I got an expensive Gucci notebook to write all my ideas in, and you guys wanted to see it. And there it is. And it's a Gucci notebook from Japan, and it has all sorts of Gucci things in it, and it has a spaceship on it, which is about to become pertinent because apparently Trump is about to announce aliens. And so I have the perfect expensive Gucci notebook to write all my great ideas in with a UFO on it. Japan exclusive Gucci. Boom. Why is this important? Because apparently psychologically, when you write ideas down in a nicer notebook, like a more expensive notebook, you take them more seriously. I learned that from watching Whatnot. A guy was talking about a psychological study on Whatnot because he just bought an expensive notebook. And he was like, there's this study that says if you write things down in an expensive notebook, you will take those ideas more seriously. And I got to tell you, as I started writing on this notebook that I paid $100-something for, I very much said, I'm not going to waste the paper in this notebook. And I started to take my ideas a whole lot more seriously. I'll tell you that. So we do have the Gucci idea notebook now. So there's another point of progress. Anyway, we're going to be watching this Red May thing, but I've got a couple other orders of business to discuss first. I've got a couple other orders of business. And we're going to start off with a car update. Because I think Old Sub the other week was asking me, he was like, you buy that new car yet? Because you guys know, my husband works for a car dealership. My husband sells cars for a living. He fucking loves it. He used to work for Comcast and he fucking hated it. And now he gets to go play around cars all day, every day. And he works at a really big dealership in New Hampshire. And he is very happy. And so he was bugging me for a while. He was like, Karlyn, you're buying all these purses on Whatnot. What would you do if I just came home with a new car? And I was like, Victor, don't do that. And then Victor was like, Karlyn, you need a new car. And I was like, well, that's probably true, but I'm lazy and I don't like buying cars. And then Victor promised. He said, when I have some downtime, I'm going to bring you a car to test drive and we're going to find you a new car because the dealership's not that far away. So every once in a while, Victor would surprise me at a random time when he didn't have anything to do at work by driving a car from the dealership to the house specifically to try to coax and cajole me into getting a new car. And the first several ones he brought, I did not like at all. And I actually instantly rejected them. I didn't even take them for a test drive. He bought me some big SUV thing. And he was like, you wanted a Jeep? I was like, I said I wanted a Jeep, not a fucking school bus. Like what the fuck is this? And so like he did his best. He whittled it down. And then finally, like a week ago, I said, Victor, what is the most fun car you have at the dealership? Like the most fun car to drive? And he said, the Prelude. And I said, yeah, I kind of know about that car. Isn't it too expensive? And Victor said, yeah, it's a little overpriced, but it's definitely the most fun car we have to drive. And so earlier today, Victor drove the Prelude to the house. And I took it for a test drive. I agreed to get in the car and I really liked it. And it was very fun to drive. It was very, 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 very fun to drive. I agree that the criticisms that this car has, and I agree with them, is it should have more horsepower for the price. It really should. But like for me, it's not that big of a deal. For me, it's kind of like it already has way more horsepower than my current car, so I don't really care. W's Old Sub, thank you so much for the channel membership. Appreciate it. Old Sub funding the car fund. But it was super fun to drive. And I do agree that it's overpriced, but I'm leasing it, and so I don't really give a fuck. So car update, because people were asking me, they were like, Karlyn, have you gotten a new car yet? I'm like, well, I'm working on it, okay? I'm working on it. And the best part about this whole thing, is Victor's literally doing everything for me. He's doing everything for me. He said, Karlyn, don't worry. I'm going to do all the paperwork. I'm going to take all the care of all the finance stuff. I'm going to bring you in later this week and we're going to pick up the car and all you have to do is sign the paperwork and leave. So I was like, even more W me. I don't have to sit around a fucking car dealership haggling with a salesman that I don't like. I get to just send my husband to not only bring me the cars to test drive, but then also to do everything related to buying the car. So I literally just show up, sign a couple pieces of paper and leave. I mean, massive W having a husband who sells cars and can handle all this shit. You know, if I was left to my own devices, this probably wouldn't have been like the car that I would have picked, honestly. But my husband works for a Honda dealership. I was obviously going to get a Honda. That was a Jeep right now, apparently is not in the cards. Maybe someday I will get the Jeep that I have wanted for years and years and years. Someday. But this is a really fun car to drive, and I had fun driving it. And so I'm not like too disappointed about it, and Victor's excited about it and all that stuff. And it looks fucking cool. It actually looks way cooler in person than it did online. It looks way cooler. That was like the first thing I thought. I was like, I saw it online. I was like, I don't know about this. And then I saw it in person. I was like, okay, that actually looks fucking cool in person. So car issue settled. I will be picking it up in a couple of days. You're welcome. I have that. Now, can we talk about something else? So I take pictures when I'm out and about shopping because I'm doing an Instagram thing that I'm using these pictures for. We don't need to talk about that right now. But like, I post these pictures when I'm out and I'm wearing like different outfits and things. And it's so confusing to me because, okay, I know I'm like older, even though I'm 29. But like the expectations that people have for how people dress is crazy. So I posted this picture of myself when I was out shopping because quite frankly, I'm starting to look really fucking thin. I haven't even reached maximum thinness yet, but like I'm starting to look really fucking thin and it's freaking me the fuck out. I have not been this thin in years. It's crazy. And I'm only going to get thinner. And so that's even going to get more crazy. And I'm curious to see what's going to happen. But anyway, I took this picture because I was just like, holy fuck, you're actually getting really thin. And then I posted it. And the responses that I was getting from some people was, that's a stupid thing for you to wear. You look like a teenage boy. How dare you wear that? Yeah. Older women shouldn't wear those clothes. And I'm like, I'm wearing a black t-shirt, black jeans, a scarf, and sneakers. And I have to just like complain about this for a moment. And old sub, I'll check that out in a sec. I have to complain about this for a moment because it's like, what exactly do people expect me to wear? Like, what exactly do people expect me to wear? I'm honestly curious. Am I supposed to dress like a nun? Am I supposed to dress like a school marm? I mean, if you go to the mall on any given day, most of the mall sells clothes that make women look like whores. Like Victor and I were walking around a mall last week, and we were walking around this mall Victor hadn't been in a while, and I was like, "Look, Victor, that's the store where they sell women clothes that make them look like whores." Because that's all you can get at the fucking mall these days. It's like, honestly, it's crazy. But I'm like, what exactly do people think I should be wearing? I just don't understand. Does anyone understand this? What is it? Like, okay, I understand my shoes are fucking awesome and those may have been distracting and those are fucking cool shoes and I regret nothing. But like, does anyone understand this? Can someone please explain this to me? Well, I was wearing Chanel. In fact, you can see the Chanel bag there because I took a side view too. Because whenever I post my picture online, retards on the internet, they're like, Karlyn is using deceptive angles. And I'm like, oh yeah? So I did have actually a Chanel bag. I'm supposed to wear a robe and a burqa. Is that what I'm supposed to wear? Am I allowed to wear sneakers? Am I allowed to wear, these sneakers have the Grim Reaper on them? Am I allowed to wear sneakers? Am I only allowed to wear some types of sneakers and not other types of sneakers? Can I get a list of qualifications? I mean, listen, I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure now that people are actually seeing, like, you know, what I actually wear in real life. I just want to make sure I'm following the rules of what clothes I'm supposed to be wearing. Does anyone have any suggestions? I just don't fucking get it. Anyway, I need to do a beekeeper. I'm not supposed to wear Goss stompers. I do have a really good pair of Doc Martens. I've got a really good pair of Doc Martens. Yeah, remember when the biggest problem that conservatives had was like a 400-pound person in a Speedo, or like a fat liberation activist that was like celebrating being fat by wearing almost no clothes? Like that, you guys are telling me that somehow me wearing sneakers is more offensive than that shit? I don't get it. I don't get it. Well, apparently they do. Apparently they expect me to wear a full-on plague doctor outfit at all times. I don't get it. A dress and a bonnet. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Okay. We got to talk about something serious for a second. I need everyone to put their serious hat on. Has everyone put the serious hat on? The retards of the internet are at it again. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, a very, very short introduction, and I promise we're going to get to the socialism in a moment, is that I was gang stalked for years of my life because retards on the internet were jealous my platform grew when theirs didn't. And so they formed a little gang stalking crew to try to make my life miserable for years and years and years, with the ultimate goal of trying to get me to kill myself. That was the ultimate goal. Do you know how I know it was the ultimate goal? Not that. That. Because about a month ago, the person who was leading the gang stalking campaign, his name is Kieran. He basically came into my stream via super chats. And when I said exactly what I just said, you led a gang stalking campaign against me to try to get me to kill myself, he said on screen, "You couldn't even finish the job. Your husband looks like a troll." So he was telling me, essentially confirming that, yeah, he was trying to get me to kill myself. That was the point of the entire gang stalking campaign. And if that wasn't enough, we also got confirmation from someone who got dragged into it at one point, but he didn't know what he was getting dragged into. And Kieran actually told him directly that the gang stalking would only end when I am dead. So that's two different confirmations that that was what was going on here. What does this have to do with this? Well, Kieran apparently is continuing to have some sort of psychotic break. Now, I didn't hear from Kieran for years and years and years. And quite frankly, that was fine with me, because he had worked with so many other people, like, I mean, probably at least a dozen people that I know of, to do this gang stalking thing because he wanted to get me to kill myself, essentially. And so he at one point went away and he privated all his accounts and he just kind of disappeared off the internet. And I was like, and every once in a while he would come back and he would try to steal my work. Does everyone remember about a year ago, Kieran started stealing old articles from my Substack and publishing them as though he wrote them, but they never got any traction. And so he just stopped doing that. And then he privated all his accounts again. Okay, well, fine. Whatever. I don't really give a fuck. Hadn't thought about him until he showed up on the stream sending me super chats to harass me just like this. Now, how do you know that's Kieran? Well, Karlyn, Karlyn, how do you know that that's Kieran? I know it's Kieran because of the things he said. I also know it's Kieran because of other reasons, and I'm going to explain what one of those reasons were, but there is no doubt. Oh, actually, I'll show you exactly how I know it's Kieran. Actually, I even forgot about this. He sent in one of the super chats, if I can find it real quick. Where the fuck was it? I think it's right before this. He sent it, so we kept banning his account. There it is. We kept banning his account. Basically, he would send me in a super chat to harass me. I would ban the account. He would create another account, send in a super chat to harass me. I would ban the account. This was the third account, and you can watch this video just if you want to fact check all of this. That's Kieran's picture. That's Kieran's picture. So that's how I know it was him. Also, some of the things he said directly line up with things he was saying to me at the time, because he's a psychotic narcissist. And so it's just like, it's mental how crazy it is. And just in case you don't believe me, that's Kieran's passport photo. Obviously with no identifying information or no private information, because Kieran's going to try to get this video pulled down on the internet, and he's going to lie and say I posted private information when there is no private information in that photo. It's just a picture he doesn't like. This is an older photo from his passport that he sent me when he was talking, when we were quote unquote friends, but we were never really friends, obviously. He sent me this 5 years ago. Okay. Karlyn, how do you have his passport photo if he's running around the internet telling people that he hated you and that you were stalking him? Well, that's a very good question, because that's not actually what was going on, and that's never what was going on, as evidenced by the fact that I have his fucking passport photo. Because why the fuck would you send... I've never met him in person. Why would you send a picture of your passport to someone that you didn't trust on some level? And this is a post I made to Instagram 3.5 years ago because Kieran was continuing to cause all this bullshit. We're not going to go back through that right now. What I want to show you guys is this is his passport photo from a long ass time ago, because he sent this to me 5 years ago and it was even old then. So, I mean, I think this is about a 10-year old photo now. This is Kieran now. That's how I know it's him. That's how I know it's actually him and not just someone pretending to be him. Okay. And I have other photos of him too. That's not the only photo I have because I had to deal with this fucking shit a long ass time. Anyway, back to this. Not that. That's more fun than this. So, funny thing happened a couple months ago. Funny thing happened. This new account pops up on Twitter. Actually, not even a couple months ago. April 2026. This video where he appeared in my super chats confirming that he was gang stalking me to try to get me to kill myself, April 9th. This new account pops up on Twitter, April 26th. The only thing this account is posting about, look, they're posting about me. This is an entire account all about me, posting all about me, obsessing all about me. And this account is connected via the United Kingdom. Does anyone want to guess where Kieran lives? Anyone want to guess where Kieran lives? He lives in England. He's in the UK. So obviously, this is a Kieran sock account where he is trying to get people to join his little gang stalking thing. Listen, he's really desperate at this point. I am monumentally successful. I'm making more money than I ever have been. My work has more reach than it has ever have. People universally understand that I am the queen of what I do. There is no one better doing this than me. And this drives Kieran insane because he's a psychotic narcissist that's obsessed with me, that really thought he could replace me, that really thought he could be the one out there doing this if he could just get me out of the way. And this is why it is still manifesting today. But the thing that's different about today than it was very different like 5 years ago is that he doesn't have anyone helping him now. He doesn't have anyone helping him now. He doesn't have anyone helping him at all. The only person he has is the fat ass poetry painter, who is also someone who is psychotically obsessed with me and has been stalking me for 5 years. And just in case everyone forgets what poetry painter looks like, that's what she looks like. That's her. W Focus, thank you so much for the gifted channel membership. I really, really appreciate that. That is what she looks like. I know that because that was a photo that was publicly posted on her Facebook account that she direct messaged me from. Hey, Cynthia, what's going on? W's to you, my dear. The legend of Cynthia in with 5 gifted channel memberships. So, the only ally that Kieran has now, Carrie Smith has stopped working with him. Mike Harlow has stopped working with him. Deb Philman has stopped working with him. Chrissy Mayer is no longer amplifying him. He can't get the attention of the Quartering. He can't get the attention of Brandon Strock. Literally every single person that he has tried to get the attention of He can't get the attention of James Lindsay or any of these people. They're all ignoring him. So the only ally that he has is the behemoth, the 500-pound shut-in poetry painter who stalks me every single day of my life because she is also psychotically obsessed. With that preface, let's go back to this. So Kieran was obviously watching Socialism Saturday. Maybe you learned a thing or two, Kieran. Maybe you learned a thing or two. Cynthia, thank you so much for being 7 months. Cynthia's been around for 7 months. Can we just all give a massive W to Cynthia? 7 months, Cynthia. It is nothing. It is not hyperbolic to say that you have changed my life in those 7 months, Cynthia. I'm not joking about that. You made me view this completely differently. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be in the position that I am. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your ongoing support. You were the fire that started all the gifting of the channel memberships. It's brought more people into the channel. It's expanded my work. It has significantly increased my funding and the ability I have to do this. And I'm not going to let you down. I've got so many things in the hopper that I think you're going to love. And I so appreciate you, Cynthia. Thank you for being a member of the channel for 7 months. People like this cannot stand that you have people who genuinely care about you when they have no one. That is very, very, very true. So back to this. Kieran was obviously watching the 6-hour Socialism Saturday that I did on Saturday, where I meticulously gave a 5-hour. I meticulously gave a 5-hour masterclass on the works of the Mary Nardini Gang, one of the most influential leftist groups that has existed in the United States in terms of influencing the actual activities of the radical revolutionary far left. I gave a 5-hour college-level class breaking down all of their most important writings, except for Be Gay, Do Crime, which was published later, so it wasn't involved in the thing. What does Kieran focus on? What 2 minutes of the stream does Kieran focus on? In yesterday's stream, she managed to convince herself that she is important enough in Big Tech's life for him to actively give her the silent treatment. Well, he is giving me the silent treatment, but that's okay. As if they were having a lover's tiff. More similar to what happened than you might think. When in reality, he probably doesn't give a fuck about her and finds her thirsting annoying. Well, I'm sure he does find me very annoying. In fact, I am positive about that. But isn't it? Yeah, and why the fuck are the clips so small? It's so weird. It's almost like he has no place to live and he's just like living off of his phone or something. I don't know. For like 2 minutes, because you know what happened is Master Shake came in the chat and Master Shake asked, what the fuck is going on with Big Tech and Algoth? Where the fuck did that go? And so basically I spent 2 minutes saying he's giving me the next level silent treatment now. And that's actually pretty great because it means I can say whatever the fuck I want and I'm not going to get any negative repercussion from it. And he's not going to blow a gasket on his stream and there's going to be no bullshit. And so it was actually a positive thing. I was like, hey, listen, Big Tech is giving me the next level silent treatment, which means he has really dug his heels in and he isn't even going to acknowledge my existence. And even if I say something about him or poke in any way, he's just going to ignore it and pretend it never happened. And I think that this is really advantageous for me because it means I can say whatever the fuck I want and nothing bad is going to happen to me. Like, there's no negative repercussions. He's not going to complain. He's not going to do a fucking stream about me. He's not going to enact some sort of play. Although the Algoth thing was pretty funny. Like, he's not going to enact some sort of play or anything like that. He's just going to ignore it and pretend I don't exist. So I'm like, W me? Well, but this is the point that I'm making, though. This is the point that I'm making. I talked for 2 minutes about this situation, responding to a question in the chat. We spent the next 5 fucking hours breaking down queer ultra-violence. But what is the thing that gets clipped on the internet? Excuse me. Karlyn thinks that she's important enough to occupy any of big tech's attention. I actually really don't. Like they had a lover's tiff. Well, when in reality, he probably doesn't give a fuck about her and finds her annoying. I think he does find me very annoying. I think that that's very, very true, which is why he's giving me the silent treatment. And I no longer give a fuck, so it's okay. But there's another point I want to make about this. So he basically responds to Poetry Painter with that. And what he's trying to do, and I want everyone to understand the dynamics of this, what he's trying to do is to get Poetry Painter to basically tag the fuck out of big tech, to be like, big tech, Karlyn's talking about you again. Big tech, Karlyn's obsessed with you. Don't you think that Karlyn is obsessed with you? And that's exactly what she did. So Poetry Painter was the useful idiot for the narcissist, and Poetry Painter retweeted it and tagged big tech, of course. I don't know. Why doesn't he block her? He blocks me on Twitter when I'm not even doing anything to him, except correctly pointing out when his audience is sending me death threats. He blocks me on Twitter, but he still has that bitch unblocked. That just shows a lack of judgment right there. But she said, watch this. It's important. This is Karlyn explaining how gray rocking her does not work. Maybe because I'm not a narcissist, you stupid fat bitch. Big Tech is 100% gray rocking Karlyn. I don't think Big Tech thinks I'm a narcissist. She says she can say anything she wants about him, and if he doesn't respond, there's no accountability for her, and calls it a win. It is a win. It is a win. It is a win. Do you guys know how much I have suppressed myself from saying because I didn't want to start shit with him? Do you guys know how much I have not said publicly? And I'm not saying I'm going to do some big expose. There is stuff I could post, but like, I'm not going to do that. But like, do you guys know how often I have like literally had to like, to prevent myself from saying something that I wanted to say because I was like, Karlyn, you're trying to smooth this over with him. Perhaps rein it the fuck in so there are no other things that happen. Do you guys know how much self-control that took for years? Do you guys know? Do you guys have any idea? W's old sub, really appreciate you, bro. You are a legend as well. We love you just as much as Cynthia. So I'm kind of like, this is actually a win. Like in real life, it is a win. If he wants to just ignore me and do whatever the fuck he's doing on the other side of the internet, I don't actually care. But like, the ability to say whatever the fuck I want to say without ramification, without repercussion, without any sort of like public blow up, that's priceless. That's fucking priceless. So this is a big win for me. And I'm not really that upset about it. But there's a couple other points that I want to make. Number one, the reason, and I want you guys to understand how gang stalking works. I want you to understand how this works. Because when I was being gang stalked, there was a core group of people that was basically calling the shots about how they were going to harass me. And that was Kieran, Harry Smith, Mike Harlow, Deb Philman. Those were the four people. Everyone involved that came in secondarily were getting fed information by one of those four people to try to push them to attack me publicly. So you had this core group of people who were talking all the time, and there were many other people involved in this, but that was the core group of people. And then you had all their friends that were involved in it as well, that was just doing it because it was fun to apparently gang stalk someone for 2 years of my fucking life. Now that Kieran has no one else to work with, he is trying to recruit people to engage in harassing me. That's why he replied that to Poetry Painter, because he knew that she would tag Big Tech because she's a psychotic fucking lunatic. And what he's really trying to do is get big tech to come at me. That's what he's actually trying to do. He's trying to provoke a scenario where big tech says, oh my God, this crazy woman is obsessed with me. And blah, 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 blah. Do I think that's going to happen? No. Because I don't think he's going to break his silent treatment for anyone or anything. I think he's dug his heels in on this. I don't think that they're going to be able to entice him to come at me in any way. I could be wrong, but I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think he cares enough to do it. I don't think he wants that particular fight because he knows I would kick his ass. I don't think that is actually going to happen. So I'm not worried about it. But I want you guys to understand the dynamics of this. And there's one more point that I want to make about this. There's one more point I want to make. If you think that they're not trying to get big tech to come and harass me, I have a question. Why aren't they talking about how obsessed I am with Amalek? Why aren't they talking about that? Amalek hangs around the channel all the time. Amalek is fucking awesome. Amalek and I actually make content together. Anytime I can listen to Amalek talk about the things that he's interested in or debate someone, I will do that. I will do that because I love listening to that guy talk. I love the way he thinks. I love how aggressive he gets in the debates. He was in this debate the other night where I guess some people told him he maybe got a little bit too aggressive, but oh, it was so good. It was so hot. And yes, Amalek is nicer. He's kinder. He's smarter. And he's got a full fucking head of hair. So yeah, he's definitely better looking. And that's not to say that there's anything going on with Amalek and I. Just to be like very, very clear. We are friends. We're like buddies. Okay. There's not some torrid affair or anything like that. That's not happening. There's going to be no expose. There's going to be no DMs. Like the things we talk about are very boring. They're not salacious or entertaining or any of that. And I'm not trying to insinuate otherwise, but I guess I'm just wondering why aren't these losers saying, look, Karlyn's obsessed with Amalek and she's got a schoolgirl crush on Amalek and did it when it's obvious who I'm actually interacting with online. It's obvious who I'm making content with. It's obvious who I'm going to listen to, although I'm sure Big Tech thought I was listening to him in the debate the other night. I wasn't listening to him in the debate. I was listening to Amalek because Amalek was fucking awesome in that debate the other night. Yeah. Amalek is very intelligent and that's hot. Yeah, totally. The reason they're not saying it's Amalek is because they know they can't turn Amalek against me. There is no reality in which Amalek is going to join these two fucking retards to harass me. There's no win for him there. That's why. That's why they're focusing on big tech. Because they think they can turn him because, oh my God, Karlyn's annoying him on the internet. Isn't she obsessed with him? No. If it was actually about Karlyn being obsessed with someone, the person I interact far more with is Amalek. And then, I'm in Adam Green's stream all the time. I was in Adam Green's chat earlier today. I watch Adam Green's show on the regular, most of the time because Amalek's on it. I want to hear what he has to say. But, there are plenty of people that I'm actually more obsessed with on the internet. And they never focus on any of those. They just focus on the ones that they're trying to get to attack me. So, like I said, I'm not worried about this from the standpoint in that, I think Big Tech's going to attack me. I don't think he is. I don't think he cares enough to participate in stuff like this. But I just wanted to, use this as an example to show people exactly how this stuff works. And just to let people know, if you see any crazy shit pop up on the internet about me, it probably leads back to these retards who are trying to cause problems. And I'll keep giving you updates if there's something you need to know that's actually impacting anything. But the bottom line is I'm in a much better place than I was several years ago when they were very successful. They almost did get me to kill myself. That was actually a very real thing. And, but it's not anymore. And we don't have to worry about it. So that's all. I just wanted to show you guys that because I thought you might find it interesting. Who the fuck is big tech? It doesn't fucking matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter. Not even a little bit. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All right, we are going to get into our Red May stream now, guys. Welcome to the actual content of the channel. Today we will be watching a discussion that took place yesterday on the Red May YouTube channel. This was a live discussion, and Red May is a group of radical revolutionary socialists in Seattle who every year, although apparently this is going to be the last year, which is very sad. Yeah, he is a Pisces. He is. Yeah, true. He is one of the 3 infamous Pisces men that I had to deal with around the same time, and it was hell. And it was hell, god damn it. Apparently, this is the last year of Red May, which is really sad. And maybe Philip will tell us more about that. But we are going to enjoy the socialism content that they create for us. And this is a presentation they did yesterday called Class Composition in a Time of Fascism. And we're going to give it more views today than it got yesterday, I'll tell you that. What are our most prescient tasks in a time of fascism? How can working class struggles of the past and power in the present day inform the next steps we're going to take? Fascism today is a response to working class power as well as an extension of the impulses present in American society and Western civilization as part of capitalism's violent, systemic subjugation of the oppressed and exploited people. But we are not here to tell a story of defeat. No Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA. You are now entering free Minneapolis. I have no idea what that fucking says. From the anti-fascist slogans of Black Lives Matter, along with the celebration of power in the streets of Minneapolis, to international feminist watchwords, feminist rather, struggles are circulating and amplifying in working class agency, autonomy, and self-activity, a life in rehearsal. So I don't know what all that means, but we're going to listen to this presentation and we're going to enjoy it. We're going to, you got a Jeep. See, why does Grandma Nay get a Jeep and I don't get a Jeep? But I am getting a really fun car. That car was super fun to drive. I'm going to enjoy driving that car. So I'm not that sad about it. Good for you, Grandma Nay. We appreciate you. All right. Do I have anything else to say before that? Oh, my work is funded by people like you. This is a class day on the channel, which means I will spend the next several hours breaking down this stream, explaining what they're saying, explaining what the vocabulary means, answering your questions. If you have questions at any point throughout this stream, please feel free to put them in the chat. I am watching on Rumble, even though it's not on the screen yet, but I also have the YouTube, the Kick chat, the Twitter chat, whatever. If you guys have questions, please put them in the chat. And if you want to support the work I'm doing and keep me in business, I would love to bring in 100 new channel memberships today. That would be awesome. We have 15 so far, so we're making good progress to the goal. If I teach you something new, send in a channel membership. W's Average Person, thank you for the channel membership. Really appreciate that. We prefer channel memberships, guys, because they not only support me, they also support other people in the community. We are a community here. We are a bastion of sanity in the midst of an insane world. And so we help each other. We support each other. We have our Queen Cynthia in the chat. W's to Cynthia. Thank you so much for 5 additional channel memberships, Cynthia. We got Red Menace Nick in with a channel membership. W's to you, good sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What's that bring us up to? Have to do math. 22, almost 25% of the way there. Guys, my work is 100% independently funded. That means you don't have to worry I'm shilling you a political narrative. All we do is watch the receipts and we talk about them. So with that said, let's get this party started.
The problems that the market creates. We have a month.
We got to
worth
rewind
of
a little bit. There we go. Philip is back.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Red May, your 1-month vacation from capitalism. We believe in 2 things. 1, riff on red, the color or the political orientation. And
I've got red,
2,
Philip.
don't pretend that the market is the solution to the problems that the market creates. We have a month's worth of events.
Philip, I have red
want to
glasses.
clue you in as to the other events that are taking place in the near future, some of them online and some of them live in Seattle. On Monday, tomorrow, at 11 a.m. Pacific, the mask comes off, the path to the Trump doctrine that has Rodrigo Nunez, Asli Bali, and Aziz Rana.
Aziz.
On Sunday, May 24th at 11 a.m., also online, Phil Neal is going to discuss his wild new book, which is coming out in paperback from Haymarket, Hell World. Phil wrote the wonderful geography of the hinterlands called Hinterlands.
Yeah, we don't know why they're disbanding.
He's going to be talking with Nick Chavez. On Wednesday, May 27th at 11 a.m., also online, Paolo Verno, Materials Philosophy in Counter-Revolutionary Times, with Alberto Toscano, Jason Reed, Elettra Stimoli, and Ariana Bove. And Thursday, May 28th at 2 p.m., also online, Karl Marx in America with Andrew Hartman, Cedric Johnson, Lee Claire LaBerge, and William Clare Roberts.
You already
so a lot
previewed
of
it for us,
coming
Lex?
up.
That's pretty cool.
If
Thank
you like what we have done and would like to help us break even on it, since we have no funding sources other than you, go to our website, www.redmayseattle.org, and press the donate button, and there are instructions about what to do.
That guy? I know who he
now
is.
I'd like to get us going with today's discussion, class composition in a time of fascism.
Appreciate
and introduce you to Kevin Van Meter, who is the author of Guerrillas of Desire, who will be the ringmaster of this particular discussion with Charmaine Schwa, Sarah Jaffe, Kieran Knutson, Peter
We've
Leinbach.
seen Sarah Jaffe many times.
So, Kevin, welcome back to Red
Sarah
May.
Jaffe is a staple.
You have to turn on your microphone here if you want people to hear. There you go.
Kevin. Do that, of course, right? Zoom and online platform faux pas. Thank you, Phil. I really appreciate you being here. I've either attended or been online for Red May for the last 10 years, and really excited to be here for the last season to celebrate that with you and bring you, the comrades here where I'm based on the East Coast, those out there on the West Coast, and of course, those around the planet, class compositions in a time of fascism. So we have a great group of speakers today. I'm really excited to take you through some introductory remarks, talk about some projects out there folks may be interested in, then of course, introduce our speakers, hear from them, and we'll get some questions from the YouTube channel and appreciate the tech support from Common Notions.
The definition of fascism that the left has is anyone who's not a communist. There is communism and there is fascism. That's it. If you are a progressive, you are a fascist. If you are a liberal, you are a fascist. If you are a Democrat, you are a fascist. If you are an independent, you are a fascist. If you are a libertarian, you are a fascist. If you're a Republican, you are a fascist. If you're a MAGA person, you're a fascist. If you're a Christian, you're a fascist. If you're a nationalist, you're a fascist. That's the definition.
And providing those questions to myself and the rest of the speakers. And I have a number of questions if time allows. And of course, the speakers themselves should feel free to ask questions of each other. My name is Kevin Van Meter. I use he and him pronouns. I'm an author, a labor educator, and a union organizer. I'm also the series editor for a new project at Common Notions, appropriately titled Class Compositions. Just want to tell you a little bit about that since it directly relates to the topic we're talking about today. Class Compositions is a new Common Notions book and event series. It's dedicated to circulating the best militant research and theoretical interventions, from dynamic historical reproductions to cutting-edge dispatchage from new worlds just beginning to emerge. Our programming will draw on the rich autonomous tradition to aid militants and working-class intellectuals, political collectives, and study groups using workers' inquiry and class composition to identify the invading socialist society, take on the planetary work machine, further working class self-activity, and refuse the imposition of work, as is still the central.
Wait, I need to, hang on. Sorry, I need to hear him say this again.
Militant research and theoretical interventions, from dynamic historical reproductions to cutting-edge dispatchage from new worlds just beginning to emerge. Our programming will draw on the rich autonomous tradition to aid militants and working class intellectuals, political collectives and study groups using workers' inquiry and class composition to identify the invading socialist society, take on the planetary.
Their study group is to identify the invading socialist society. That's part of the framework for their program. To identify, it's the wording that got me. That's why I was like, the invading of socialist society. Like, what the fuck? They're calling it an invading socialist society? It's just such odd wording.
Historical reproductions to cutting-edge dispatchage from new worlds just beginning to emerge. Our programming will draw on the rich autonomous tradition to aid militants and working-class intellectuals, political collectives and study groups using workers' inquiry and class composition to identify the invading socialist society, take on the planetary work machine, further working-class self-activity, and refuse the imposition of work, as is still the central issue we confront in our everyday lives. Our first two titles are super exciting. The first is Reading the Planetary Class Struggle, the collected works of George Kafensis, which is going to be edited by Silvia Federici and George. And then the second one, and I'll ask a question later from this book, is
this person trans?
The refusal of work and the crisis of capitalism.
Wait. Is this person trans? 1 for trans, 2 for not trans. 1 for trans, 2 for not trans. I really don't know. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. 1 for trans, 2 for not trans, 3 for confused.
The Writings of Harry Cleaver. This is a long overdue collection of Harry Cleaver's work, and that's edited by my comrade Robert Ovets and myself. Then we'll be doing a bunch of things at Labor Notes in June, so hope to see lots of folks out there as well. And finally, we're organizing an online series on workers' inquiry, various views from around the world, and would be super excited for comrades to join us for that.
Comrades!
Let me take you through our agenda today. The first speaker we're going to have is Kieran Knutson. He's based in Minnesota, and since I joined
Horrible name.
Anti-Racist Action as a young punk kid, he's been scouting as an anti-fascist.
Pop quiz for the chat. What is anti-racist action? I didn't realize it was that. Pop quiz for the chat. What is anti-racist action? Why is that significant? This guy joined anti-racist action as a young kid. Why is that significant for people in the chat? Pop quiz. Pop quiz. That's Antifa. Anti-racist action was the precursor to modern day Antifa. And the Anti-Racist Action Network came out of the Sharps, Skinheads Against Racial Prejudice. This was in the punk community. It wasn't just neo-Nazis in the punk community, and there were skinheads that were against the neo-Nazis. Then those were the Sharps. The Sharps were fighting the neo-Nazis within the punk community. This started in Minneapolis in 1986. The Sharps evolved to the Anti-Racist Action Network, a decentralized, non-hierarchical network of cells all over the country that used exactly the same tactics that we identify as Antifa today. This is the start of modern day Antifa in the United States, is anti-racist action. And if we're honest about it, wait, I have a question. Did Andy No mention anti-racist action in his first book? I read Andy No's book years ago, when it first came out. So I don't remember. Can someone check for me? Did Andy No even mention anti-racist action or the Sharps in his first book about Antifa? Can someone go look that up? Because if Andy No didn't mention that, then Andy No has no fucking idea what this is. That's going in the Andy No folder. By the way, guys, we are creating a channel in the supporter Discord to facilitate our war against Andy No. And so that like this is gonna go. Make sure we put this in the Andy No Discord. Did Andy No actually know the origin story of Antifa in the United States? Did he even bother to look into it? The Anti-Racist Action Network originated in the late 80s to engage in direct action, including political violence, doxing against rival political organizations, and the neo-Nazi right. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Yeah, well, Miyazakian is the fucking king and the legend of that. Okay, Ding 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 says Andy does discuss it in his book. Okay, listen, if Andy got that one right, then hey, kudos to him. Kudos to him. I want to know what he said.
I joined various views from around the world and would be super excited for comrades to join us for that. Let me take you through our agenda today. The first speaker we're going to have is Kieran Knutson. He's based in Minnesota, and since I joined Anti-Racist Action as a young punk kid, he's been a guiding light as an anti-fascist.
So, and this person too, the speaker just said too, it's not just this Kieran guy that was in Anti-Racist Action. This speaker said, when I joined Anti-Racist Action as a young kid, Kieran was the mentor that was guiding us. So both of them, this person is Antifa as well.
For that. Let me take you through our agenda today. The first speaker we're going to have is Kieran Knutson. He's based in Minnesota, and since I joined Anti-Racist Action as a young punk kid, he's been a guiding light as an anti-fascist, and certainly excited that he's joining us and to hear more about the class struggle and struggle against ICE in Minneapolis. Our second speaker is going to be Sarah Jaffe. Needs no introduction, of course, to the fine folks.
She's an anti-work activist.
For those who saw an earlier post about today's event, originally Silvia Federici was going to join us and speak about social reproduction and care work and related matters, of course, that she's been working on for many, many years. She's currently traveling in Greece and wasn't able to make it. I thought to myself, who is the best person we could possibly come up with to get to replace Silvia? And I thought Sarah Jaffe would be it. I figured she was busy, she was traveling, she was writing her new book. I know they're doing all those things, and super excited that they're here with us.
This is Miyazakian. Is this the quote? Is this what Andy wrote in his book? Is that what you're telling us? The Anti-Racist Action had a model of organizing violence to oppose or disrupt what they say are far-right groups and individuals. It is the immediate precursor to contemporary American Antifa. Is that what's in Andy's book? Okay. Hey, you know what? Listen, we give credit where credit is due. Andy got that one right. That was correct. That is a time in which Andy is correctly informing the public of something.
Chua is going to speak about international class struggle. I'm really excited to read their forthcoming book, which we'll hear about later.
Yeah, Tiny W. We can give W's to people we don't like. It's
fantastic
fun.
to see you 10 years later and participate in events like this.
Rare
and then
Andy
finally,
W. Yep.
Peter Linebaugh will close out before we move on to questions. And I've been reading.
Now, if that's all Andy wrote about in his book, if the Anti-Racist Action Network got one fucking sentence in a book about Antifa, that to me seems a little lackluster. It's in the chapter called The American Mutation. Okay. That to me seems a little lackluster. It was a pretty big fucking deal. But for right now, it's more acceptable than no mention at all. So fine.
Peter's work for a good 30 years, drawing on his concepts, ideas, and history from below. I think every other year I return to Many-Headed Hydra by him and Marcus Rediker as a guiding light. So appreciate his work. Just a few opening remarks to kind of set some tone. And then, of course,
thank you,
old numerous speakers from different theoretical traditions that are drawing on important concepts, ideas to the themes that we'll be talking about for the rest of our time today. Capitalism and the state engaged in class combat for nearly 150 years. They tried to whittle union density down to under 10%. They spent 100 years to undo New Deal programs, 75 to unravel the social contract, and various productivity deals with sectors of the class. The ruling class fought for decades to undermine the gains of Black liberation, indigenous, peasant, feminist, youth and student, environmental and anti-nuke, queer and allied social movements.
Queer.
Most recently, massive cuts to social services are pushing the work of social reproduction and care onto those already performing that work without a wage. Meanwhile, a whole set of practices, from worker insubordination and everyday resistance to unionization, challenge capitalism's command of work, our dominant life activity. In fact, we are a product of 500 years of struggle. Even in this moment, we convey class information and class struggle just re-emerging, even though history does not bend in one direction.
7
nor
mentions,
another.
2 of the baldies, 0
Autoworker,
sharps. Okay.
historian-
So what Andy did not do is he did not. So actually, you know what? Actually, if Andy has no clue that anti-racist action came out of the Sharp movement, which he seems to have no clue about since he didn't even mention the Sharp movement, he only went back so far. That means that Andy has no fuck off idea that queer was cultivated in punk communities. You see where I'm going with this? If Andy never figured out that anti-racist action came from the Sharp movement within the punk community, then Andy has no idea that queer ideology, the thing he's supposed to be releasing a book on, he has no idea that queer ideology was cultivated in punk communities. He has no idea. So that's interesting. That is an interesting piece of information. Didn't dig, not far enough, Andy. Close, not far enough.
And an organic intellectual, Marty Glaberman, along with Seymour Faber, wrote in Working for Wages, The Roots of Insurgency.
Yep, cherry pick.
Quote, the working class struggles against capitalism because its objective conditions of life force it to, not because it is educated to some higher consciousness by some outside force, such as a political party. It would seem also that the struggle against capitalism includes all forms and levels of struggle.
Oh, yeah.
From the individual to the collective, from the local to the national and international, from economic to political.
The struggle against capitalism includes all struggles. Hang on a second. I got to fix this. Got to get down to the actual size of the screen. The struggle against capitalism includes all struggles. Listen.
Subjective conditions of life force it to, not because it is educated to some higher consciousness by some outside force, such as a political party. It would seem
okay, so he has some
also
idea then
that the struggle against capitalism includes all forms and levels of struggle, from the individual to the collective, from the local to the national and international, from economic to political. In fact,
that actually just, I need to go back and look at Andy's book at some point. I haven't looked at Andy's book in years. But that actually pisses me off. Because again, guys, Andy No is just like all these other people. Like, there was a time that James Lindsay was good. Does everyone remember years ago when James Lindsay was fucking awesome? And then he gets sucked into the conservative grifter sphere and he turns into a massive fucking lying fraud. I'm sure there was a time when Andy No was good. I said it when I was talking about him on Saturday. I recall his first book being a good book. I recall liking it. I recall always thinking that he'd actually done a pretty decent job with it. Then he gets pulled into the conservative grifter sphere and he becomes a massive lying fucking fraud. And it's like, this makes me even more angry at him because he knows. He knows what is going on. He knows. And he fucking sold out for money and clout.
it would be hard to conceive how more general or radical forms of struggle, such as general strikes, factory occupations, or workers' councils.
I'm talking about before that, though. There were times he was. I know what you're saying, though.
Local strikes, the organization of unions, and the like, unquote. Fascism today is a response to working class power, as well as an extension of the impulses present in American society and Western civilization. as part of capitalism's violent, systemic subjugation of oppressed and exploited peoples. But we are not here to tell a story of defeat. No Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA. You are now entering free Minneapolis. Woman, life, freedom. From the anti-fascist slogans of Black Lives Matter to the celebration of power in the streets of Minneapolis to international feminist watchwords. These struggles are circulating and amplifying working class agency, autonomy, and a life in rehearsal. The fascist turn in the United States is a response to the resilience of working class power. We can see this by looking at formal and informal practices and ways of organizing life, and innumerable places where working class resistance endures, including industries with high union density, such as meds and eds, and the public sector. We also see this in neighborhoods and municipalities such as Minneapolis, with remaining working class institutions. What are our most pressing tasks in a time of fascism? How can working class struggles of the past and power in the present inform the next steps we are going to take? And we are here to begin to answer those questions.
What flavors
Let me
slime?
formally introduce
Cake batter
our speakers.
at the moment. Finally.
Karen Knudsen is a longtime anarchist
play
and
with something else.
anti-fascist militant.
Oh, yeah?
After working at UPS for a decade, Kieran has worked in a telecom call center for over 20 years, which is about as miserable as it sounds. Kieran was elected president of CWA Local 7250 in 2020 and 2023 on a radical class struggle platform after building a stewards council and organizing grievance strikes with his coworkers. Kieran is a member of the Black Hat Workers Collective, which is an affiliate of the Workers' Solidarity Circle. Kieran has been a militant participant in many struggles, big and small, in the workplace and streets over the past 4 decades. Most recently, the resistance to the ICE occupation and terror campaign in Minnesota this past winter. Take us away, Kieran.
Yeah, Kieran.
Hey, everybody. Thanks to Kevin and all the organizers for this opportunity to talk with you. It's
Look at the banner. Look at the fucking banner. Karlyn, how do you know the unions are run by communists? Well, the Communications Workers of America have a struggle fist on their banner that is in Antifa colors. It's an Antifa flag with a union on it with a struggle fist. Gee, it just eludes me how we know that the unions are run by communists when they have a literal Antifa flag with a struggle fist and the name of the union, and the union organizer is self-professed Antifa, going back to the Anti-Racist Action Network, which is like decades of being Antifa. I don't know how we could possibly come to the conclusion that the unions are run by communist guys. The CWA is the Communications Workers of America. Yeah, it says an injury to one is an injury to all, which is a communist slogan. I don't know. Maybe we're just making things up, guys.
Honor to be on this panel with Charmaine and
police unions do not count because police unions, according to the left, are not real unions. And so police unions are the only exception to this rule. It's a good question, but you have to understand one of the main impetuses of the far left is to abolish the police, to fund the police. They believe the police are the protectors of capitalism. They do not believe the police unions are real unions. So that is the only exception. There is no other exception.
Hey, everybody. Thanks to Kevin and all the organizers for this opportunity to talk with you. It's a honor to be on this panel with Charmaine and all the other notable and smart people that'll be talking today. I guess I'm just going to say a little bit about my understanding of what's happened here in Minnesota in the last several months, and out of that, some lessons that we've drawn. The first thing, and I think the most important thing, is that we're up against a vicious and deadly enemy. And I think the last few months have really brought that home to tens of thousands of people here to see masked agents of the state execute people in broad daylight in the street is remarkable, and something that
They
We're still
won't. They will never become police officers. Being police officers would go against their identity. They are never going to infiltrate the police unions, because infiltrating the police unions would mean they would have to become police officers, which they are never going to do.
absorbing. But what happened the last several months was that Trump and his regime decided on this largest ever ICE operation against the working class communities, especially the immigrant communities of Minnesota. And they put 4,000 agents in Minnesota to carry out this attack.
Yes, even important guys.
Just for a frame of
guys, there are 0 police in this country who are communist. There are no police in this country that are communist. I don't care how left the city is. The police are the protectors of capitalism. The police are the protectors of the bourgeois. Abolishing the police is one of the main far left demands. When they say abolish ICE, they mean the same thing as abolishing the police, by the way. They think ICE and the police are the same thing. So there are 0. When I say 0, I mean 0. I don't mean, what about the exception in this city, Karlyn? No, when I say there are 0, there are 0, because this is why the right needs to learn their ideology. Because if the right understood that these people hate the police more than any fucking thing, they would understand why there are 0 communist police in this country. There is not a single police union that is run by communists. That's not real.
reference, Minneapolis and St. Paul, the two twin cities, each have around 600 cops each. So you can imagine what an influx of 4,000 agents into the metro area feels like. Everybody would see them. They were frequently around. Their presence was
no police
sort of omnipresent.
This is a really good point. There were no police unions that showed up for May Day. We had people all over the country. At May Day protests. There were 0 police unions who showed up at May Day.
And the campaign they carried out was truly one of terror. They were tackling and abducting workers, carrying out the garbage at fast food restaurants, moms who were dropping off their kids at daycare, dads who were picking up their kids from public schools, people just pumping gas at the gas station, abducted while their car was left running in the cold. And this created this huge culture or climate of fear and terror, such that, you know, thousands and thousands, especially of the Latino working class, just stayed home, just stopped going to work, stopped going to school, were unable to do the sort of everyday, you know, errands and fun things that people do. So, you know, you couldn't go grocery shopping, you couldn't go to the movies, you couldn't go to the bar, you couldn't work on your car, you couldn't, you know, just do all the things that people like to do. And instead, people had to bunker down. And it was this climate that, you know, we all had to exist under. And thank God that people didn't just take it. There was a lot of self-organization that happened immediately. And some of this was from experiences in Chicago and LA and other places, and also from immigrant rights organizations that had been organizing over many years or decades even. And then also, probably most importantly, in my mind, was the experience of the George Floyd uprising in 2020, in which the people of the Twin Cities had stood up against the lynching of George.
Guys, anytime you hear someone calling it the George Floyd uprising or the George Floyd rebellion, that person is on the far left, because that's how they framed the Black Lives Matter riots. They don't say Black Lives Matter march. They don't say Black Lives Matter riots. They say George Floyd rebellion or George Floyd uprising.
Floyd, and he created a dynamic and fierce uprising that pushed the police off the streets for weeks. And so all of that experience helped galvanize a movement in the streets, particularly around rapid response networks. That's like people that joined signal loops and were willing to come out and confront ICE if they were in their neighborhood or close proximity. And just in the neighborhood where my wife and I live, there were 800 people in our neighborhood text loop, and there were some 80 such loops across the Twin Cities.
See, I kind of think so. No wrote about Vicky Osterweil, including her quoting property, whiteness, and the police are connected. So it's like I really don't think Andy understands this stuff. It's like he may be able to research things. He can read what is it? In Defense of Looting, which is Vicky Osterweil's book, where they them talks about this. He can read they them's book. Listen, this information is in like the first chapter of In Defense of Looting. This is like you get smacked with property, whiteness, and because I know this because I very distinctly remember reading this book on an airplane and having this realization that these were all the same. This information is literally in like chapter 1 or 2 of that book. It's very close to the beginning. So like, it's like Andy can read leftist stuff and he can say, they're talking about X, Y, B, and Z, but he doesn't actually understand what that means. He doesn't understand that whiteness is not about skin color. He's saying they're talking about property. They're talking about skin color. They're talking about the police. That's what's going on in his head. But he does not understand that property, whiteness, and the police are all manifestations of capitalism. And that's the fucking problem. It's like, it's a very surface level understanding for someone who's supposed to be the renowned expert in Antifa because he staged a publicity stunt in which he got attacked with a milkshake one time. If I got publicly assaulted and had to go to the fucking hospital going to cover Antifa, you better believe I'm going to have more than a surface level of an understanding of what the fuck is going on. It's like rookie research level. So basically, I have more understanding of socialists and communists in America than Andy and the biggest part of the Republican Party? Yes. This is the hard truth that we have to confront. Do you guys remember who was here a couple years ago? This was like in mid-2023 when I really realized how insane James Lindsay was going. Because James Lindsay, for me, was someone who taught me a lot about this. Like, I really, you know what, for the lunatic that asshole has become, I will never take away the fact that I learned a lot from James Lindsay in 2021 and 2020, 2021, even into 2022 a little bit. But I stopped listening to James at some point because I was doing my own research and I wanted to be able to come to my own conclusions without being influenced by James. So I just stopped listening to him, I think, in 2022, maybe even a little bit before that. I don't remember exactly. But in 2023, I kind of started paying attention to what he was saying again. And I immediately went into like kind of a panic attack. Does anyone remember this happening? I kind of had a panic attack where I was like, do I know more about the left than James Lindsay? Do I know more about the left than James Lindsay? Do I know? This was like in I think this was like in September of 2023. You can go back and find the streams. We started to listen to his interviews and we started just saying, this is wrong, James. This is wrong. This is just wrong. This doesn't match up with the primary source evidence at all. And I had to go through like what was actually like a shocking realization for me at the time, because you got to understand, like I was just over here doing my own thing. I was just researching and I had started going undercover with them. I had gone undercover at the Socialism conference. I had all this information. Like I was just like doing my thing in almost complete isolation. And then all of a sudden I had the epiphany that I was like, none of these people on the right are telling the truth. James Lindsay's lying to people. This information is not real. We were watching interviews he was doing and just going, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. And then I had the shocking realization that I was like, do you know more about this than anyone on the right? I was like, no. Like, this was not part of my fucking plan. I didn't plan to become the nation's expert on all things far left. This was not something I had on my bingo card at all. And so it was very shocking to me when I started to really understand that Yes, Karlyn, you actually do have more evidence about this than anyone. And yes, Karlyn, you actually do have a more in-depth understanding. And then I started to try to tell people in my audience about it. And I think that like people in the audience, and you're going through it right now, Werner, people, you come to a point with this stuff where you're like, do I really know more than the FBI? Do I really know more than every single person on Fox News? Do I really know more than Glenn Beck, who pretends to know everything about these groups? Do I really know more than like Steven Crowder? Do I really know more than Andy No? Yes. Yes, you do. Yeah. Yeah, you do. Yeah. You're welcome. I wish it wasn't this way. I really do wish more people were paying attention, but that's reality. And that's where I started having a panic attack a couple years ago. And then I went through the 5 stages of grief, and then I landed at acceptance. Then I landed at acceptance.
So that just gives you sort of a flavor for the breadth of the resistance. There were people that were committed to organizing direct action protests at the
So Whiteness is Property is the original paper that Cheryl Harris wrote at Harvard Law School, which talks about the concept of whiteness as a form of property. But another thing you want to watch is Cheryl Harris's speech at UCLA Law in 2014, where she expands on all these ideas. And in the speech she gave at UCLA Law to celebrate the 20-year anniversary of this paper, she flat out said, whiteness is not about skin color. Black people can be white too, and whiteness is intimately tied to capitalism. So all of these ideas, well, I shouldn't say they come from Cheryl Harris. Cheryl Harris is but one of many people who have spouted these ideas. I actually wrote a book about this called A Brief History of Racism that tracks the origin and evolution of the term racism. You can find that book on Amazon. Cheryl Harris was an important figure in this, though. So yes, that is a good source.
the Whipple Federal Building, which was the headquarters where ICE was staging from. And that led to another kind of violence that was happening, which was that directed against the movement itself. So there was a campaign of terror that was aimed at immigrant workers. And then there was this, additional layer of it, which was an incredible amount of violence directed against the resistance to ICE's campaign. So that when you were interacting with ICE, for instance, just going out to protest, you could just notice small things that would be different in terms of them pointing guns at people, in terms of them shooting tear gas, rubber bullets, flashbang grenades, and their liberal use of pepper spray constantly. So just even say yelling at the ICE agents might get you maced or pepper sprayed. And then of course we know that
that's a good idea, Warner.
Executed Renee Good, a mom, a queer woman, a poet, who was confronting ICE during one of their abductions on her block. And then there was another couple of shootings that are notable. A Venezuelan immigrant who was working DoorDash was in his car and was followed by ICE agents, and he did not know who they were and fled from them. And turned out they were looking for somebody that had owned the car previously, so he wasn't even on any of their lists. And he ran home, and the cops followed him, or ICE followed him, and one of his neighbors helped confront him before retreating into the apartment. And the ICE agent shot his neighbor through the door in the leg. His family was terrified. Actually called the police because they weren't sure who these people were that were chasing them with masks. He did survive, which is good. Unlike Victor Manuel Diaz, who was a Nicaraguan worker who had been working in dairy farms in outstate Minnesota before getting a job in a suburban Korean restaurant that was just randomly raided by ICE. And he was abducted, and then 10 days later, he was dead in a detention center in Texas. And then finally, Alex Preddy, who was a union brother, a nurse at the VA hospital, who was a member of these rapid response networks, who'd gone out to observe and confront an ICE operation in South Minneapolis. And when he tried to help a woman that they were accosting, he was executed as well. So that's kind of the level of violence and terror that was happening against the people of the Twin Cities. There was a great response, as I mentioned, in terms of, my role or how I interacted with it. Generally, besides being part of the rapid response networks, we were also trying to do stuff within our union. And the first thing that we did kind of to try and educate members about what was going on with ICE and trying to help reframe it was that two Laotian men who were in a sister CWA local at a bus manufacturing factory in St. Cloud, Minnesota, had been abducted. They had both been in this country since they were preschoolers, and they'd worked in this factory for 20 years. Earlier in their adult lives, they'd gotten in trouble and served their time. But this is the kind of people that Trump is trying to paint as the worst of the worst. Basically people with any kind of record, even if they'd served.
And this is why it was just fundamentally stupid for Trump to say, don't worry, we're not deporting all the illegals. We're just focused on the criminals. Now, do you hear how the left spins this? They're like, well, you're deporting these people who are illegal that are criminals as though those people aren't breaking the law too. Because Trump made this big fucking show saying, we're just deporting the criminals. So if you have law-abiding illegals that are still here fucking illegally, you can't deport them according to the left because Trump made this big pronouncement of only focusing on criminals. So fucking stupid. They're so stupid. W's Tolkien fan, thank you so much for that gifted channel membership. Guys, we are 26% of the way to the goal. If I teach you something, if I show you something you've never seen before, if I answer your questions, if I make you laugh, if I make you cry, please consider donating some channel memberships to support my work. I'm 100% funded by you guys. I can't do it without you. Channel memberships are a great way to not only support me, they also support the community, and I really appreciate it.
Time and had been part of the community and working in workplaces for decades. And so we did some education with our members about that as a way of kind of trying to actually say, this is who, this is the kind of people they're attacking, grandfathers, devout Buddhists, factory workers.
Not the Buddhists.
And through that process, we learned that many of our members had already been pulled into the movement, because of the momentum in society. So like two different women showed me their whistles that they had from their neighborhood rapid response. And we kind of had this idea that things were starting to grow and spread and infect the workplaces from the streets. And then over time, several unions have been in discussions about how do we move forward to be able to do political strikes, to be blunt about it, not to just fight when our contracts expire, but to back each other up so that each union isn't just fighting alone. And then also, how do we go beyond just the contractual battles to actually
Buddhists against
talking
fascism.
about class issues?
Hey, Tolkien fan, thank you so much for the super chat. Learned that a labor union president is also part of Antifa since the 90s. Yeah, you guys have learned that the Communication Workers of America, their local president in Minneapolis, has been part of literal Antifa before it was Antifa, since it was anti-racist action in the 90s. Isn't that interesting? You've learned that the Communication Workers of America have a literal Antifa flag with a Black Lives Matter resistance fist on it for their symbol. Isn't that interesting? Thank you so much, Tolkien fan.
Issues, beyond the contract. And, there have been some discussions about this aligning contract.
Yeah. And because there is a literal union Antifa flag, I think we can all now make the assessment that Antifa has jobs. Antifa has jobs because the lead organizer of the Communication Workers Union in Minneapolis is literally Antifa. So, yeah, sorry, conservatives. They literally run the unions. That means they have jobs.
Contracts in 2028, the UAW had sort of raised that as a strategy, and the Chicago Teachers Union had begun coordinating with different unions to think about that. And then I think when Trump was elected, people thought, well, we may not be able to wait till 2028. Started thinking about May Day and this year. And then when the Operation Metro Surge started, our local unions started talking and thinking we may have to.
So what did he just say? What did he just say? They were already planning for 2028, the mass general strike on May 1st, 2028. They were planning for that before Trump got elected. I want everyone to understand this. They were planning the big May 1st, 2028 mass general strike, where all the unions are going to come together to try to shut down the economy nationwide for an extended period of time. They've been planning that since before Trump got re-elected. That means they were planning it under Biden's presidency, because these are not Democrats. These are socialists. They didn't like Biden. They didn't like Harris. They didn't vote for Harris. They didn't support Biden. All of this stuff was happening just as much under Biden as it is under Trump. Actually, they're recruiting more now. I'm wrong about that. They're recruiting more now and expanding their ranks more now under Trump than they did under Biden. But I want you to listen to this. He said, we were planning this for 2028. And then Trump got elected, and we said, we might not have that long.
And then also, how do we go beyond just the contractual battles to actually talking about class issues, beyond the contract? And, there have been some discussions about this aligning contracts in 2028. The UAW had sort of raised that as a strategy, and the Chicago Teachers Union had begun coordinating with different unions to think about that. And then I think when Trump was elected, people thought, well, we may not be able to wait till 2028. Started thinking about May Day in this year. And then when Operation Metro Surge started, our local unions started talking and thinking we may have to be ready to do something sooner than May Day. And then when Renee Good was murdered, we decided to, push the envelope and go all in on a day without work, without school, without shopping. And RU Local was the second union to sign on to that. There ended up being about a dozen unions, including all of the labor councils across Minnesota and the state. Minnesota AFL-CIO ultimately signed on to it. It turned into a mass day of, protest and defiance. There were 100,000 people that marched in the Twin Cities. In downtown Minneapolis in -20 below zero weather. In our workplaces, we were able to document that over 80% of our membership across.
Hang on. He's about to say 80% of the membership was doing the rapid response groups, but let me answer Werner's question first. Karlyn, so Trump doing certain things is just an excuse they can use as a public face to make people think it's something it's not. Trump isn't doing anything about the far left, Werner. Trump isn't doing anything. Every single thing that Trump has said about the far left and Antifa, literally since he took office, is just for PR. They don't actually do anything about it. They haven't stopped Antifa in any way. It's only gotten worse. And I'm deadly serious when I say I think we know more than the FBI does. I think we know more about what the left is doing than the FBI does. I really do, genuinely. And so everything you see coming out of the White House, and listen, if Trump were actually doing something that were productive, I would say that. I'd be like, okay, Trump, W. Like when Trump did no taxes on tips, W, Trump, W, okay? We can give out W's even if we disagree with people and don't like them. So if Trump was actually doing something about this, I would say so, but he's not. Sorry to clarify, the left using Trump as an excuse for things they planned longer. Well, the left has never done that, though. That's, again, you're advancing a right-wing narrative. The left never liked Biden. The real far left was never supportive of Biden. They were very openly organizing throughout the entire Biden administration. They very openly were telling people, don't vote for Kamala Harris, fuck that cop. So I wouldn't say the left is using Trump as an excuse, because that implies that they weren't doing all the same shit under Biden. They're not using Trump as an excuse. They're doing what they've always been doing, except that right-wingers are convinced that for some reason that Antifa loved Biden and Kamala Harris, and that's just retarded. That's retarded. Let's see. Is it true that Indivisible was created in December 2016? Yes, but Indivisible is a progressive group. Indivisible is not Antifa. Antifa does not like Indivisible. Antifa does not work with Indivisible. These are completely different things. So it is true that Indivisible was created, I think, right after Trump got elected. It was created by two Democrat operatives. I wouldn't say it's the same gates as the Russiagate thing. I think that's a little conspiratorial, but the Indivisible has nothing to do with what we're watching now. These people are not Indivisible. They don't like Indivisible. Indivisible is progressive, essentially. Yeah. So you understand what I'm saying. I've watched pretty high level government anti-terrorism people treat Antifa like some book club. They were shocked that Trump even issued a weak ass executive order. Yeah. See, this is what I'm saying. The government does not take this seriously. It's just a fucking talking point to feed red meat to the conservative base. That's all it is. Yo, old sub, thank you so much for the gifted channel membership, good sir. Thank you so much for that. Let's add that to the tally.
All of the labor councils across Minnesota and the state, Minnesota AFL-CIO ultimately signed on to it. It turned into a mass day of, protest and defiance. There were 100,000 people that marched in the Twin Cities. In downtown Minneapolis in -20 below zero weather. In our workplaces, we were able to document that over 80% of our membership across 7 different workplace or work title silos participated by staying out of work that day.
80% of the membership of the Communication Workers of America stayed home from work to participate in a mass general strike on January 23rd in Minneapolis. 80% is a ridiculously high participation rate for basically anything. That's crazy. What that means, guys, is they know they can mobilize their membership, at least in Minneapolis, to actually stay home from work, call out sick, just not go in, do whatever. They can mobilize 80% of their members to engage proactively in a mass general strike with the specific goal of shutting down the economy.
And we know that tens of thousands of other people across the state stayed home from work and school.
9,000
And
members. Thank you, Tolkien.
since that
9,000
January
members.
23rd strike, we've been approached by 5 different groups of workers and workplaces that wanted to unionize, who had either shut down their workplace or organized to try and do that on January 23rd. So just in terms of what kind of, what was sort of spreading out throughout the class in terms of wanting to get organized and to fight. And then I think I'll just say that, I think one point that I try and make, when speaking with people around the country is that the politicians were absolutely no help. I think the, important slogan that came out of the Twin Cities was that nobody's coming to save us. And I think that—
What did he just say? The politicians were no help to us. Tim Walz was no help to us. The mayor of Minneapolis, whose name I always forget, but who is certainly a Democrat, he was no help to us. When he's saying the politicians, guys, he's saying the Democrats. He's saying the Democrats. These politicians in Minnesota were no help to us. That's Tim Walz and the Democrat mayor of Minneapolis that he's referring to explicitly.
And to fight. And then I think I'll just say that, I think one point that I try and make, when speaking with people around the country is that the politicians were absolutely no help. I think the, important slogan that came out of the Twin Cities was that nobody's coming to save us. And I think that that was, not just sort of a theoretical concept, but it was just something that was self-evident that, even people that were saying, clever things on national TV, like the mayor and the governor, in practice were actually aiding ICE. So while they might go on TV and denounce ICE, ask Trump to pull ICE out, on the day-to-day level, their police forces that they controlled were supporting and supplementing ICE. For instance, when Alex Preddy was murdered, executed on the street, the community rushed to confront, the agents that had murdered him, and the Minneapolis Police Department, Hennepin County sheriffs, and the state police all played crucial roles in defending and supporting ICE as they shot, hundreds and hundreds of tear gas canisters, rubber bullets, and flashbang grenades at the community, and then ultimately opened up a corridor to help ICE escape. And that's just sort of a more dramatic example of the day-to-day level that the state was cooperating with ICE, even though, there were tensions between the local government and the federal government.
And remember, when you're saying 7,200 workers stayed home, that is just in one union. That's not all the workers. That's not everyone who participated in the mass general strike that day. You're talking about 7,200 out of 9,000 members of the Communication Workers of America, Local 7250. That's one branch of one union. There were many unions that went on strike for the May Day, for for May Day. Yes, there were tons of unions in May Day, but at the January 23rd thing in Minnesota, there were many other unions there, including the teachers' unions. They have the numbers. They absolutely have the numbers. I don't know if they understand that they have the numbers, but they absolutely have the numbers, and I think they're starting to understand it.
Ultimately, it was about, the question wasn't about the resistance and supporting the resistance. It was about how to maintain stability, how to maintain capitalist stability. So I think that's a clear lesson that people need to draw from it. And the other thing I think is important is about the way that the street and the workplace intersected with each other. We have to understand, I think sometimes there's some orthodox ideas that, that workers' resistance only emanates from the workplace, but I think it's also important to understand that the streets and the workplace are constantly in conversation with each other, as y'all academics might say. And that's important and a good thing, because it means that stuff that's happening in the community does come into the workplaces, and it gives us an opportunity to talk about it in the workplace. And I think, ultimately one of the most important things about Minnesota was that then we took that and tried to use our labor power as a way of fighting back and of asking people to withdraw our labor collectively as a protest against what was happening. And I think I'm hopeful, even though there's been quite a bit of effort by the authorities.
Well, okay, we need to be very clear about this. Why do unions in Minnesota promote and protect illegal immigration? It is not just unions in Minnesota. It is unions everywhere. Everywhere. Nationwide. Everywhere. The unions nationwide are intimately involved in all of the anti-ICE organizing. The unions are the main groups that are pushing the anti-ICE organizing and all of the signal groups and all of that stuff. Why are they doing it? To protect illegal immigrants? Because they are socialists and communists who believe that borders should not exist, because borders are an enforcement mechanism of capitalism, because capitalism to the left is defined as private property ownership. So what do you need to have private property ownership? You need a border. What makes someone illegal? A border. This is why you see abolish ICE. This is why they talk about legalizing everyone. They do not believe borders should exist, because borders are an enforcement mechanism of capitalism, and they're all socialists and communists, and so they want to abolish the border, and that is why they promote and protect illegal immigration, because they do not believe that anyone is illegal on stolen land and yada, 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 yada. There's your answer.
And by the union establishment to try and put the genie back in the bottle.
Yes.
That
the police unions are the only ones that are not involved. The police unions are not real unions, according to the left.
Methods of struggle will become more commonplace in this country. And so I'm happy to answer questions and talk more with everybody later, but I appreciate this opportunity, and thanks for everybody who supported the resistance here.
Yeah, thanks, Antifa. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Kieran. Next up, we have Sarah Jaffe. They are a writer, reporter, and researcher living in London and on the road. She is author of From the Ashes, Grief and Revolution in a Time of Fire, Work Won't Love You Back, How Devotion to Our Jobs Keeps Us Exploited, Exhausted, and Alone, and Necessary Trouble, Americans in Revolt, all from bold type books. Her next book, Heterosexuality is Broken, is forthcoming from One Signal.
Heterosexuality is Broken is Sarah Jaffe's next book. Can anyone define for us in the chat what Sarah Jaffe means when they, them says heterosexuality is broken? Hint, if you watched Socialism Saturday this past week, you know the answer. Let me grab some water. My box of cans of water was just a little out of reach. Let's see. Sorry for catching up, Karlyn. I was just showing how it was like mentioned that 9K membership is that was one union for one day. Yeah, we just need to be very specific. I understand what you were doing, Michael, but we need to be very specific about this so that everyone understands. What does Sarah Jaffe mean when she says heterosexuality is broken? That capitalism is broken. Yep. That well, not close. When the left says heterosexual, okay, so what do we know about Sarah Jaffe? Sarah Jaffe's pronouns are they, them. Why is it important that Sarah Jaffe's pronouns are they, them? Because that means that Sarah Jaffe is queer. Sarah Jaffe is identifying as outside the gender binary. We also know that Sarah Jaffe is friends with a lot of queer Marxists because we've been watching Sarah Jaffe a long time. So I think we can assume that Sarah Jaffe is a queer Marxist. What if you watched Socialism Saturday this past week, you know the answer to this. What do queer Marxists mean when they say heterosexual? What do queer Marxists explicitly mean when they say heterosexual? They do not mean one man and one woman. They say this explicitly. They mean adhering to the straight and narrow, to social relationships that uphold and assimilate to capitalism, the gender binary, etc. I know this is really confusing for people because it's an odd code switch. But again, if you watched the Socialism Saturday from this past week, they literally say in one of the papers, heterosexuality is not about one man, one woman. It's about upholding the social norms of capitalism, essentially. That's a little bit paraphrased, but that's what it says. It's upholding cultural normativity. It's upholding monogamous propertied relationships because queer Marxists don't believe in monogamy. They believe marriage is a form of capitalism. Exactly, marriage is a norm of capitalism. It's upholding heteronormativity, cultural normativity. So it's important that you understand this because apparently her next book is called Heterosexuality is Broken. Well, now that makes more sense, doesn't it? How can heterosexuality be broken? It's a biological thing, right? We need heterosexuality to reproduce. That's only if they actually mean one man, one woman when they say heterosexual. If they're saying heterosexuality is broken and you know it's a queer Marxist, you can assume they mean capitalism is broken. Because heterosexuality is about upholding the social relations that form the cultural normativity that uphold capitalism.
Trouble, Americans in Revolt, all from Bold type books. Her next book, Heterosexuality is Broken, is forthcoming from One Signal. Her journalism covers the politics of power, from the workplace to the streets, and her writing has been published in The Nation, The Washington Post, The Guardian, The New Republic, The New York Review of Books, and many other outlets. She's a columnist at The Progressive. She also co-hosts the Belabored podcast with Michelle Chen,
she's a communist,
covering today's labor movement, and Heart Reacts.
She is not progressive at all.
And invites podcasts for the collapse of late capitalism. Thanks for being here, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. Socialist technology. Socialist. Sarah, you're muted.
Hello. Now I'm not muted, right? Cool. So I did wear my Wages for Housework shirt despite not being Sylvia Federici because I've been asked to come here and talk about social reproduction.
Social reproduction. Pop quiz for the chat. What is social reproduction? What is Sarah? I didn't know she was going to talk about social reproduction. This is fucking awesome. What is social reproduction? What does Sarah Jaffe mean when she says social reproduction? Does anyone know? How smart are you in the chat today? Are you guys smart or are you retarded? What does Sarah Jaffe mean when she says social reproduction? Boom! Best answer. Best answer among the early responders comes in with Dragon Tail. Social systems reproduce themselves until they are disrupted. That's what we're talking about. Specifically when it comes to the queer Marxist left, when they're talking about social reproduction, they are most often talking about the nuclear family. Because the reason the left wants to abolish the nuclear family is because they believe the nuclear family is literally the reproduction mechanism of capitalist values in society via social reproduction theory, which says social systems will reproduce themselves until they're disrupted. The nuclear family is where people are born to be in the capitalist system. People are raised with capitalist values, and then it produces the workers that go out and replenish the system. So in order to overthrow capitalism, they have to overthrow the nuclear family. That's a creative spelling, Steve. Social reproduction is that systems will continue to reproduce themselves until they're interrupted. The idea that systems will reproduce themselves until they're disrupted. In order to overthrow capitalism, they need to disrupt the nuclear family and instead replace it with something that stops reproducing capitalist values. So like a polyamorous queer family, getting rid of parental rights, getting rid of monogamy, like property relationships sanctioned by the state. They've got some ideas for that, but that's essentially what we're about to hear about.
Is great. I asked specifically to go after Kieran because I wanted to know what he was going to say before I talk a little bit about the way that I think social reproduction has been central to this resistance to ICE. And I need you all to be slightly patient with me as I have had a long week.
What Sarah Jaffe is going to say is that the insurgency in Minneapolis created a sort of family of choice like environment where all of these people were coming together to work together as part of the collective to protect the comrades. And in coming together, this is what Emmy O'Brien was talking about when we watched That They Them last week. Do you remember how Emmy O'Brien was like? Emmy O'Brien was like, the values of communism will get created during the revolution because all of these people are going to leave their nuclear family households and come to the commune to participate in the revolution against capitalism. And that is where we will establish the values that will reproduce in the communist utopia. Oh, holy shit. It was serendipitous that we watched that. What Sarah Jaffe is going to say, I promise you, is something to the effect of, in Minneapolis, all of these people came together apart from any boundaries of their own families, and they worked together as a collective to try to have a revolution against the capitalist oppressors. She might not use those exact words, but that's what she's going to say. And that's exactly what we saw Emmy O'Brien say last week, but that presentation was given years ago. So they're saying this is the revolution, and we are changing the values that are being socially reproduced in our communities. And that's an effort to overthrow capitalism. 1 in the chat if you understand what I just said. 2 in the chat if you're confused. It's okay to be confused, but if you're confused, please tell me where you're confused so I can answer. Also, I want to make sure I'm explaining this well. So if you are legitimately confused, please tell me, because I want to make sure I'm explaining this in a way that people can understand. Okay. Looks like people understand. Again, I know it can be scary to say, Karlyn, I don't understand what the fuck you just said. But if you're new here, please say that and I will try to clarify, okay? I need to make sure I'm explaining things in a way that people can follow.
All over the place talking about a bunch of different things, and I'm a little more scattered than usual. But I think one of the things that has been really fascinating to me has been the way that, as Kieran was saying, right, the streets and the workplaces are in struggle with each other, but also that the sort of confrontational aspect of the resistance to ICE and the mutual aid social reproduction part of making sure that those people who, as he said, weren't leaving the house were getting fed, are able to stay in their homes, that the kids could do school from home, the way that a lot of networks and technologies that we use during the pandemic lockdowns are being repurposed in these moments. So, the WhatsApp groups are also activated to make sure that people are bringing people groceries. They're activated to make sure that somebody's picking
WhatsApp?
up the kids from school if the kids are still going to school.
Wait. She didn't just say Signal, she said WhatsApp. Have you heard anyone talking about WhatsApp, using WhatsApp to organize? I haven't. They've always used Signal. I use WhatsApp to communicate with people in China who send me high-end knockoff bags. But I can definitely see how WhatsApp would be conducive to organizing. But that's just that is the first time I've ever heard them say WhatsApp.
School. And they, you probably saw the pictures of the people who were doing, forming a perimeter around the school and then facing down with, Greg Bovino and his goons when they show up with tear gas.
Yes, explicitly. Yes.
So I think it's always, I pulled this book off my shelf the other day. There's a line in a wonderful piece by the wonderful Bethany Morton and Pamela Vocal where they talk about the movement is social reproduction. And I think that's really, really been sticking with me as I watch the resistance.
By the way, Sarah Jaffe is friends with Emmy O'Brien. I don't know if they're not like besties like her, like Emmy O'Brien and Sophie, but I'm pretty sure that Sarah Jaffe has been in presentations with Emmy O'Brien. So the fact that we heard Emmy O'Brien say the values of the commune, the values of communism are going to be created during the revolution, and now we see Sarah Jaffe saying the organizing in Minneapolis is creating a new form of social reproduction. Like that's very, very eerie. Yeah, probably true. I don't know Dragon Tail. I don't know how they're doing it. They have their ways. They have their mystical, magical ways. Also, I think some of the people I'm getting bags from are in Singapore. So that might also be a factor. Which I've just discovered. That was a new discovery for me. I was like, oh, you're coming from Singapore. Okay. Well, whatever. As long as you send me good stuff, I don't really give a fuck.
To ICE in places like Minneapolis, also in the city that I was living in until I moved to London, which is New Orleans.
But everyone has WhatsApp
and watched trends.
All of the high end knockoff bag people all use WhatsApp. WhatsApp is like their jam. I only use trusted sources. I have learned how to suss this shit out. I only use trusted sources. I pay in very specific ways. I've only had one bad experience and I fixed that shit very quickly. So I know. But like there are plenty of people that, they do recommendations and I only pay through PayPal, which protects me and stuff like that. So don't worry, my friend. Don't worry.
Get very active again in doing this kind of mutual aid, food deliveries, that basic life-sustaining work. And that one of the things that's been going on in Minneapolis since the drawdown has been an attempt to get an eviction moratorium, has been rent relief for people who weren't going to work. This is part of, it connects up to the much broader housing struggle that I will return to again in a few minutes.
The rent relief argument in Minneapolis connects to the larger, broader housing struggle. What does that mean? W's in the chat to Old Sub Sailor. Really, really appreciate your support, bro. Thank you for all these gifted channel memberships. You rock. So, rent relief, or basically the idea that the city should pay the rent of the illegal immigrants so they don't have to leave the house and go to work. That was one of the things that came up during the protests in Minneapolis that are still ongoing to this day. So basically what they wanted to do is socialists were constantly going to the city of Minneapolis and saying, we demand rent relief. We demand you pay their rent and stuff like that. But what Sarah Jaffe just said is true. It's not just about We need to protect the illegals from being kidnapped by ICE by allowing them to stay indoors and paying their rent so they don't have to go to work. It's not just about that. Capitalism is defined as private property ownership. One of the forms of private property ownership is a landlord, essentially. A person who bought private property and then rented that private property out to a non-private property owner. So landlords are a huge enemy on the left. They do not like landlords. Tenant unions are one of the types of groups that are intimately involved in all of the anti-ICE organizing. We see them pop up all the time. What are tenant rights groups? They're little unions that are fighting with the landlords to advance far left policies, okay? So the larger issue here is that the left does not believe property ownership should exist. They certainly do not believe people should be landlords because they believe landlords are evil capitalists that are exploiting the proletariat for profit and personal gain. They want to abolish all ownership. That is the larger picture. Housing, housing is a human right. Free housing for everyone. We all live in the projects now. Congratulations. That's what Sarah Jaffe's talking about.
But yeah, the broader thing that I've been thinking about a lot these days, as Kevin said, I'm working on a book about how heterosexuality is broken.
Oh,
So I am normally a labor reporter, but now I'm working on something that is presumed to be the opposite of work, although of course it's not, and that is of course our personal romantic relationships.
heterosexuality is not separate from work. You don't say, Sarah, you don't say heterosexuality is not separate from work.
On a book about how heterosexuality is broken. So I am normally a labor reporter, but now I'm working on something that is presumed to be the opposite of work, although of course it's not, and that is of course our personal romantic relationships. And I'm stuck on this because of the transformation in the family that has come alongside deindustrialization. The research that I'm doing here in England has me trying to map out the decline in industrial jobs and the decline in traditional quote unquote marriage. And they both fall off a cliff on the little line graph at exactly the same time, which is about 1972. And this is roughly the same in the US. So what's happening in part is that the crisis of social reproduction, our inability to make enough money to pay the bills and all of the other.
Hang on. Am I covering the Kino Casino tonight? Oh! I really don't want to, but I almost feel like I have to. But I promised Mac B I wouldn't because Mac B is hosting Monster Movie Night in the Discord tonight. He has an old Godzilla movie. But if I'm being honest about it, I might have to because I heard that they're going to talk about Chrissy Mayer tonight. But like, okay, if I watch the Kino Casino, can you guys also make sure you go to Mac B's movie night and support him? Because you guys can do both at the same time. I can't do both at the same time. And I don't like doing it over Mac B's movie night because I want Mac B's movie night to be successful with people going and watching the fucking movie and enjoying it because he's putting trivia together. He does a really great job. He watches cult classics. Can you guys promise me that if I do the casino watch party tonight, that you can go and support Mac B in the supporter Discord and watch the damn movie? And you can enjoy both, guys. You can enjoy both. You don't have to come here for the casino coverage. You're going to enjoy that? Okay. Okay. But I feel like I have to just because apparently Chrissy Mayer is a prostitute. I already knew Chrissy Mayer was a whore, but I didn't know she was an actual hooker. So we'll see. Okay, we'll see. Maybe I will. If you want to get me to cover it, sending in some channel memberships would be a great way to start. Because I'll tell you what, we sure as shit are not doing the Kino Casino tonight if we don't meet the channel membership goal. If you guys want me to, one in the chat if you want me to do the casino tonight, two in the chat if you don't. I feel like I'm betraying MacB, and I really don't want to. But I will. One in the chat if you want me to do the casino tonight. Two in the chat if you don't. Bot, don't vote more than once, please. Okay. Here's the deal. if you guys want me to do the casino tonight, I will do it, but you have to help me meet the channel membership goal, okay? We are a little low on channel memberships. We are only 28% of the way there. If you want casino coverage, we need to hit the membership goal. And that's just the way it goes. W Red Menace Guru for a channel membership. Really appreciate it. Guys, if everyone in the chat gave a channel membership right now, we'd already meet the goal. So you guys let me know. No channel memberships, no casino. No channel memberships, no casino. No channel memberships, no casino.
Things that we need to do is becoming a crisis of actual reproduction.
Ricky W's, thank
There's
you.
a tension that we always sort of struggle with in the movement. I've got my picture just behind me over here of Stuart Hall doing childcare at the women's conference at Ruskin College in 1970.
Yeah, we got a member chat. Thanks for being a member of the channel for 2 months, Dr. Raleigh Fox. My thanks to Cynthia for my gifted membership. I decided to stay and learn more. Oh my God, I had punk rock buddies in the 80s, had no idea. Well, don't worry, not all of punk was queer, but certainly there was a queer subset of punk, but it is a very interesting thing. I really appreciate you being a member of the channel for 2 months. Thank you.
And it says, you know, the revolution begins with care. But at the same time, in my Wages for Housework t-shirt, I, you know, realize that we're also resisting in many ways the way that care is extracted from us. So the movement is social reproduction. The movement is also sometimes pushing back against the way that social reproduction is forced upon us. So
capitalism.
These are tensions that I think we live with all the time. Another line when I was making my notes here from Silvia Federici was that contraceptives may be the only true labor-saving device that women have been able to use in the last however many years.
Yep.
All the gadgets in the home just end up doubling down.
Contraceptives free women from the oppressive gender binary where their only job is the unpaid labor of reproduction of social values by having children and raising them with capitalist values to feed the capitalist workforce. That's what she's saying.
On the amount of housework we have to do. So on that front, the panic that you've all probably been hearing about the birth rate crisis, right? That's been top of mind for our friendly neighborhood fascists and also many friendly neighborhood liberals, I guess. Part of what's happening here, right, is that marriage has been classed for a while. The upper middle class broadly still gets married. They get married to each other.
Marriage
they divorce
is
less
class.
often. They raise children in upper middle class homes, send them to fancy universities, and thus consolidate that class structure, while the working classes are less and less likely to get married. If they have children, less likely to do so in partnership. And
well,
I
mean, work is the capitalist system. Work is the economic engine of capitalism. So capitalism means two different things. There's the economic model of capitalism. You go in the store and you buy stuff, or you work for a company and they produce a product for a profit, yada, yada, yada. It is also the cultural mechanism of capitalism, like gender, like the nuclear family, stuff like that. When you're talking about work, work is the central, like, productive unit of capitalism. Without work, you don't have capitalism. Without work, you don't have oppression. Without work, you don't have a working class being completely exploited so that the evil capitalists can profit and make, you know, all the money and stuff like that. So Sarah Jaffe is part of what's called the anti-work movement, which is, you know, basically about getting people to like quit their jobs and leave like the capitalist workplace and stuff like that. I haven't covered it a ton, but it's definitely like, you remember that quiet quitting thing that happened a couple of years ago where people were still going into work and getting paid, but they weren't doing fuck off? That's these people.
Not particularly attached to needing to do these things
Selling
in
your
a
labor
nuclear
to
family.
survive. Thank you.
But what's actually happening here again is class divisions are being firmed up in this way. So when trying to think about a class composition analysis, I think it's worth noting the way that this thing that used to be presumed to be universal is now becoming a marker of class status. This is going along hand in hand with this housing crisis. There's an article in The Guardian in 2023 that I return to all the time because it said that we could soon see a Jane Austen-style marriage market as millennials without an inheritance try to partner up with millennials who stand to inherit a house. This was specifically in the UK, but it is also, again, broadly true across the US, across Western Europe, across a lot of the world. Housing prices have exploded, salaries have not, rents are impossible. And yeah, this has a huge effect on personal relationships. Again, from the same Guardian article, a 2022 survey found that nearly a quarter of respondents would consider moving in with a partner earlier than planned to save money. And it's trapping an estimated 1 in 10 people in relationships they aren't happy in because they can't afford to move out. So again, crisis of social reproduction becomes crisis of actual reproduction. Surveys find a happiness gap between parents and non-parents, not the one that JD Vance and company seem to expect, which is that non-parents are significantly happier. I don't have any kids. I'm not, again, trying to impose this on anybody, but these are the facts.
You guys know why I can get that little sports car that my husband wants me to get that has basically no back seat and basically I mean, you guys know why I can get that car that I'm getting? I don't have fucking kids. I don't need to cart kids around in a car to fucking soccer and whatever the fuck. I am thrilled not being a mother.
And it's largely because we live in a world that does not support people having
car.
children, right? It is, the US is particularly bad on this front, but it's bad everywhere. And so what we get from, the Donald Trumps of this world, the Elon Musks of this world, JD Vance and all the rest of them with their birth rate panic is either, ideological blackmail or just straight up policy change that are going to try to force people into having families by cutting off even more of the supports that we might have for having a decent life. So, JD Vance and his childless cat lady obsession.
We have the queen, the legend of Cynthia, in with 5 channel memberships. W's to Cynthia in the chat. Very much appreciate that, madame. Guys, we are up to 35% of the goal. If you want casino tonight, donate some channel memberships because I'm not doing it if we don't hit the goal.
Sorry, like I said, more scattered than usual. This version of pronatalism is obviously also raced, right? It's the right kind of women that they want to be having children.
True.
Birthright citizenship status at the same time that they want to revoke, right?
Real.
Mass deportations on the one hand and pushing white women to have more babies on the other. So this is also true here in Britain, where I'm currently living. In the recent by-election, this guy, Matthew Goodwin, who's basically gone from being an academic to being a right-wing talking head, has been hammering on about this. And the Reform Party is suggesting that it would rescind no-fault divorce, return to household taxation. This guy, Danny Kruger, who maybe some of you have heard of, says, we are suffering from having a totally unregulated sexual economy. Goodwin wants childless women to be taxed more with a negative child benefit tax, and also wants fewer women in higher education. So, there's that. In the US, obviously, we have the most important thing, which is the overturning of Roe v. Wade, which means that in places, including the one that I used to live, you can't get a safe and legal abortion anymore. And now, of course, they're trying to crack down on getting abortion pills through the mail. There's also Donald Trump's first executive order, which was that, or first executive order on his second term, we should say, that it is the policy of the United States to recognize 2 sexes, male and female. And this is coming alongside, again, proposed baby bonds, which is a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of the amount of money that it actually costs to raise a child. The Heritage Foundation recent report with all sorts of plans to do things like, again, roll back no-fault divorce, make it harder to exist on your own. And, they're trying to make it harder for married women to vote. So what we're getting, right, is no promise at all for the state to make it easier for people to do the labor of social reproduction and indeed actual reproduction, but instead just try to bully us back into the home. So my wages for housework shirt. And we're seeing all of this, right? We're 6 years on from the first COVID lockdown, where we started to hear about essential work, which was and is, I think, still a framework worth poking at and thinking with. And now we've also got generative AI, which I have more questions than answers to think about. We've already had a gigified economy. Now the robots are coming for that gig work. I do not think at all that it was an accident that, or just a coincidence or just a convenience, that people in Los Angeles were setting Waymo automated taxis on fire while they were protesting ICE raiding the city, right? People are aware that the tech companies want to replace us or just, break down and tailorize work further. So how do we resist all of this? The challenge for thinking in terms of class composition when I'm thinking about things that are not happening in the workplace. And again, I really loved also what Kieran said about the workplace and the streets being in conversation, but we also need the home to be part of that conversation, right? There is paid social reproduction work happening in the home and around it, right? A lot of the gig economy is what some Harvard Business School academics once called the internet of stuff your mom won't do for you anymore. It's getting food delivery, right? It's getting a TaskRabbit to maybe come clean your house. So there is paid social reproduction work happening in and around the home. There is unpaid social reproduction work happening in and around the home. That has to be part of our consideration of what is class struggle in the age of this particular fascism. I think we need to be much more aware of the way that this birth rate panic, again, is raced, that the goal is to, deport everybody who's quote unquote deportable, criminalize everybody else, force white women back into the home, and then maybe there will be some decent jobs for white men, but probably not. So with that said, the gender part does not get enough discussion for my liking. But some of the forms of some of the forms of resistance that I'm really interested in right now, as noted, the social reproduction part of the broader resistance to ICE, when we're seeing less dramatic incursions than what happened in Minneapolis now, but they've certainly not given up on the desire to deport as many people as possible. Tenant organizing, I think, is a huge part of what's happening right now.
Tenant organizing is a huge part of what's happening right now. Exactly what I said earlier. The tenant unions are part of all the anti-ICE organizing.
Work that's going on again in places like Minneapolis, the growth of the Tenant Union Federation across the country and its bases in places like Bozeman, Montana, not where people usually think of as hotbeds of left-wing organizing. I am obsessed with.
Sarah, did you just say that the tenant unions are left-wing organizing? Did you just say that it's not just about looking after the needs of the tenants? It's about the tenants unions being organized specifically to do anti-ICE organizing because the tenant unions are a part of left-wing organized to undo property rights. W's in the chat for focus. Thank you for the gifted channel membership. Guys, can we get a channel membership rally? It's almost 8 o'clock. I don't know if we're going to finish this presentation tonight. Maybe we will. But can we get a channel membership rally? Can we at least get up to 50% of our goal, please? Can we at least get, if I've taught you something so far in this stream, if I've shown you information you're not getting anywhere else, if I've answered your questions, if I'm breaking this down in a way that is easier to understand than what anyone else is doing on the internet, if I'm helping you draw connections with things, can we please get halfway to our channel membership goal? I'm not going to continue until we hit 50 channel memberships or more. I'm just going to sit here quietly. Do you guys want to keep going? Do you guys want to keep watching this? You want me to keep breaking it down? They're going to get into some discussion. It's going to be real interesting. Yo, Axehead, W's Axehead with 5 gifted channel memberships. We got Cynthia in with a channel membership. Okay, that's 6. That brings us up to 42. We need 8 more, guys. 8 more, please, before we continue. I'm just trying to keep us on track, guys. I'm looking out for you. If you want to do the casino tonight, I'm not doing it without hitting the halfway point. Or not even the halfway point. I'm not doing the casino unless we hit the whole thing. But like, you guys want to keep going in this one? Because I can just stop the stream. Don't have to do it anymore. Only 2 people want me to keep going. We got Kristen in with 5. We got Cynthia in with another one. W's to Kristen. W's to the Queen, Cynthia. Need two more. Two more to hit the halfway point. Suffolk, Karlyn. Thank you, Alex. Thank you. We got Tolkien fan in with one. Who's going to be the hero? Who's going to be the hero that gets us to the halfway point? I know one of you is going to do it. Who is going to be the hero of the halfway point? We are up to 49. We need one more to hit our halfway point. I've got slime, guys. I'll sit here and play all day. Yo! We got Cynthia and Tolkien fan at the same time. I'm declaring it a tie. I declare the tie. Cynthia and Tolkien fan. We even got Pooper in there. Hey, thanks, Pooper. Thanks for that. Thanks, Pooper. Okay. And we got Alex. Alex wants to suffer tonight with the casino with 10 gifted channel memberships. W's in the chat to all of you. Not only did we blow right past our original goal, we are up to 62 channel memberships. All right. Let's keep going. Let's see how far we get before the casino.
Of the broader resistance to ICE. When we're seeing less dramatic incursions than what happened in Minneapolis now, but they've certainly not given up on the desire to deport as many people as possible. Tenant organizing, I think, is a huge,
you only wanted the second half only. Well, you got
part
there.
Of what's happening right now. Watching the work that's going on again in places like Minneapolis, the growth of the Tenant Union Federation across the country, and its bases in places like Bozeman, Montana, not where people usually think of as hotbeds of left-wing organizing.
Montana?
I am
doing left-wing
obsessed
organizing
with data center opposition.
You don't
in part
say.
Because this cuts across partisan lines. Basically, nobody wants a data center in their backyard. And I do think that perhaps more than people are given credit for, part of the opposition to these things is also the fact that.
But if you want to go watch the movie with Mac B, if we do the casino, if we do it, if we meet the goal, please just go to the movie. It's okay. But you can do both at the same time. You can have two different screens up. It's okay. But please go support Mac B for movie night. I adore Mac B. He does such a good job. He has such a good playlist for movies. Please go to his movie night, okay?
You know, they know that these things mean us no good, and us, I mean,
you
the
can
workers,
do both.
the
Yeah,
working
exactly.
class, the working classes, however we want to put
go
that.
Enjoy.
Coming down the pipe a little, maybe sooner than we might think, the Iran war and all of the constant opening and closing of the Strait of Hormuz is going to have massive consequences for the global food supply. Kind of a big
deal. The food
Um,
supply, you don't
and
say.
so within all of this, and this is a question that I've been wrestling with since at least the days of Occupy Sandy back in New York, is how do we avoid mutual aid being simply a band-aid on the capitalist crisis, right? How do we actually think of this as survival pending revolution, as the Black Panthers used to say? I don't have an answer to that. If I had an answer to that, I would have written it a long time ago. But again, with a lot of these things, I have more questions than answers, and I'm really excited to be on this panel with these brilliant people who hopefully have more answers than I do. So I will hand it over with that.
Thank you, Sarah. Very much appreciated. So next up is Charmaine Chua, who is a Singaporean scholar, organizer, and writer, and a professor of geography at the University of California, Berkeley. Her interdisciplinary research is at the intersection of Marxian political economy, post-colonial development, and technological change, with a specific interest on how the rise of the logistics industry has reconfigured the contemporary relations between supply chain capitalism, race, and empire. Her first book, Logistics Counter-Revolution, is forthcoming from University of Minnesota Press next year in 2027. She is also at work on a second book, How to Beat Amazon, The Struggle of America's New Working Class, co-authored with Spencer Cox. Her work has been published in Society in Space, the Review of International Studies, the Socialist Register, Theory and Event, Antipode, the Boston Review, The Nation, Jacobin, among other venues. She co-directs the Marxist Institute of Research, serves as the current chair of campus organizing with the Council of USC Faculty Associations, and is a research fellow at the Transition Security Project. In 2023, she was named a Casey Foundation Freedom Scholar in recognition of movement leaders who participated in academia with a demonstrated commitment to supporting social movements. And taking us away into international social movements, Charmaine.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Kevin. That was an embarrassingly long biography. I wish that I had just given you one line, Charmaine Chua is a communist, and taken away the rest of it. So apologies for that. But it's good to see everyone here. Huge, huge appreciation for Kevin, my former grad school comrade, to Kieran Knutson, who is one of my all-time heroes, who trained me to do battle in the streets of Minneapolis when I lived there, and to Sarah Jaffe and Peter Linebaugh, two scholars and thinkers whose work I frequently turn to for a grounded commitment to working class militancy. So it's a real honor to be here. What I thought I would do today is do a little bit more of a kind of zoom out to offer a kind of framework for thinking about what I think has become one of the biggest dilemmas of our time, how to build an effective anti-imperialist working class internationalism. The genocide on Palestine after October 7th has made it patently clear that we need and all want an effective anti-imperialist labor internationalism. But it has also, I think, made it clear that constructing it effectively is one of the greatest challenges of our times. We stand in a moment in which loss after loss, decimation after decimation of Palestinian workers and comrades and brothers and sisters in Palestine has confronted us with the weakness of a left in the US that has in many ways tried but ultimately not been able to make much of a dent, partly because of the kind of broader context of fascism.
The great Otis, the funder of the casino. I know what Great Otis wants. Great Otis wants the casino tonight. Great Otis is like, we're gonna get to this membership goal, Karlyn. We're doing the casino. We're doing it live. W's in the chat for Great Otis. 20 gifted channel memberships. Welcome to the 20 new members of the stream. We appreciate you guys. Up to 82% of the goal. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate yo. Oh man, I gotta watch the casino tonight. Oh man. Great Otis is like, you're not getting out of it that easily, Karlyn. Another round of W's to you, good sir. I appreciate it. Thank you for funding our casino stream later. Mac B, I am so sorry, Mac B. I beg forgiveness. I told Mac B yesterday. I said in movie night yesterday, I was like, I'm not going to do the casino tomorrow, Mac B. You're going to have movie night all to yourself. And now I'm taking it back. And I beg forgiveness from Mac B. And I hope people will go to his movie night and support him, because the Kino Casino is basically trash. And that Godzilla movie is probably a lot better. But I can't help myself because they're going to drag Chrissy Mayer. I can't fucking help myself. I cannot help it. Thank you, Great Otis, for getting us over the finish line. Appreciate it. Does internationalism inadvertently support global capitalism? No, when she says internationalism, she means the elimination of all borders. So when a lot of people think of internationalism or globalization, they think of the WEF. The WEF and what these people are doing are not the same. She means the elimination of all borders, the elimination of all countries. That's what she's talking about.
But I want to speak more broadly to this dilemma. How do we actually build an internationalist, anti-imperial working class movement? And to draw from my experience as a scholar of supply chains and as a militant researcher who's tracked weapons supply chains in service of anti-imperialist Palestine organizing since 2014. And I should say that this is what I'm talking about today.
Go to Godzilla movie night. Reagan can go to Godzilla movie night. Bot can go to Godzilla movie night. Mitchell can go to Godzilla movie night. Nick is guys. Can someone let Double A know? He's posted it. It's posted in the movie night message board in the Discord, bro. If you're not in the Discord, go to the post tab in the community and follow the link. I'll verify you. But MacB's got a great list of Godzilla movies tonight, and so I encourage everyone to go take advantage of it.
the final chapter of
Or
a
that he's
book,
doing this month, rather.
that I've just finished called The Logistics Kind of Revolution that Kevin mentioned. So I want to work through this question. How do we build
I don't know about that,
internationalist
Red
working class
Menace
movements
not sure.
today by thinking through 3 dilemmas and then
Yeah.
proposing 3
The movie tonight is Destroy All Monsters. Thank you, Victor.
kind of concrete orientations to them. And the 3 dilemmas are: what is internationalism? How do we connect the here
It
and
was
there?
once.
The
It
second
was.
is: what are the tactics of internationalism? How should we think about the construction of internationalist movements? And the third is: who are internationalism's actors? So how do we bridge, I love the connection here, how do we bridge the workplace and the streets and the home? And then I want to propose 3 orientations in response: concretization, composition, and codrification as 3 kinds of ways of thinking about a kind of provisional solution to these dilemmas. So dilemma 1, what is internationalism and how does it connect our here in the imperialist core to a decimated there that we are responsible for producing? I think one of the kinds of dilemmas that I've encountered time and time again, and this I'm sure is familiar to many of you, is that as we sort of sit in the moment in which we're reckoning with our role in the imperial core, many of the ways that we've found, the way of gesturing towards internationalism has been to make relatively symbolic gestures to the international through marches in the street, through political education, where the main impulse has been to kind of raise awareness through political education tools that take the form of running social media campaigns or teach-ins, wearing kufiyas to show and demonstrate our public solidarity, or using public pressure, such as in campaigns, teach-ins, marches.
So the kafiyas are to demonstrate their solidarity as a comrade.
And encampments that call attention to genocide. But often these kinds of ways of doing work, and I don't want to use the word symbolic as a kind of derogatory term, right? Symbolic performances are really important for making a stand and taking a clear position on internationalism. But what I think many of us have found is that it's unable to build a kind of long-lasting and durable power that can extract concessions and demands in a way that it feels like actually meaningfully advances solidarity with others far away in ways that have
struggle
durability.
is real.
And so one of the kinds of questions that I think is worth asking is, how do we think about that internationalism in concrete forms?
Tomorrow.
The second dilemma, I think, is the question of how internationalism should be carried out. And here I think that we have witnessed, especially in Palestine solidarity movements, the increasing fetishization of the disruptive power of material choke points as a kind of magic bullet. So many of you will be familiar with this, that there has been, at least in the last 12 to 15 years, a kind of increasing realization of the centrality of physical choke points in supply chains, that as supply chains have expanded and snaked around the world and spread the working class offshore production to other places in the world, how they have sort of returned back to the US is in these massive choke points, like at ports, at arms factories, that become potential places for us to think about seizing. And so the kind of, biggest example of this has been with the Block the Boat movement for Palestine that sort of started in 2014 in the ports of LA and Oakland, as well as more immediate things that will be familiar to people, like the Houthi seizures of ships in the streets around Yemen. So one of the things that I think has come about with the kind of realization that there is this special disruptive power of material choke points is that there have been a lot of militant researchers who've put work into illustrating the political economy of supply chains. And yet lots of this research that builds a kind of or illustrates a kind of direct relationship between how they work, right? Where we can track where weapons are going, how these parts are linked together, presents a really useful way of understanding where and how supply chains might allow us to grasp the kind of global production of capitalist systems. But there isn't always, I think, a direct relationship between knowing how supply chains work and bringing that to how the global
Owen mentioned me? What did he say? What did he say? Don't leave me hanging like that, Jesse James. What did he say about me? Was it nice?
build projects that are capable of responding to the scale and scope of supply chains. So we can map, for example, how Boeing parts move from India to assembly plants in Virginia to Mediterranean ports, and many people have done so. But the question of where and how dock workers and arms workers are equipped to actually interrupt these flows is hugely unevenly organized, and often sort of the reality of where, you know, the kind of decimation of labor movements have gone is that many of the dock workers that are historically militant are actually no longer in the choke points that move the hugest amounts of military and internationalist material. And in fact, that some of the major choke points in the world economy are riven with much more kind of bureaucratic
this is
business.
boring. I'm fast forwarding through the international segment. I usually don't like the international stuff. We're on kind of a little bit of a time constraint here, so we're fast forwarding through the international bullshit because I don't care. I can't care about everything the far left cares about. And you know, when it comes to international stuff, I'm an American. I care about what they're doing here. It's not to say the international stuff can't sometimes be informative, because sometimes it is, but not when we're on a time constraint. Okay, we gotta prioritize. We're fast forwarding.
For going on, thank you very much.
Thank you.
No,
we didn't, Pizza Can. Shut up.
Thank you, Charmaine. So we've zoomed out to the
We gotta do an
international, and now we're
updated
going to zoom
tie
out
picture.
historically.
My boobs
I
look
remember
significantly
many,
better
many
since the
years
last
as
time I took a tie picture.
Many years ago, as young activist and militant, Peter said to me, and I quote, "Dig until you find a commoner. Just continue to dig." And I have followed that advice as a union organizer, as a labor educator, as an author, and it really is my pleasure to introduce Peter. Peter Linebaugh is an historian and author of The London Hanged, the Magna Carta Manifesto, The Incomplete, True, Authentic, and Wonderful
Can someone please tell me what
History
Owen
of
said
Mayday,
about me? What did he
and Stop
say?
Thief. And he's the co-author with Marcus Rediker of The Many-Headed Hydra. His articles have appeared in publications that include
Gotta set up
Counterpunch,
casino stream.
The New Left Review, Radical History, and most importantly for me, Zero Work and Midnight Notes. Take us away, Peter.
I would. Can you hear me?
We hear you wonderfully. Go on ahead.
Okay. Because I've had trouble. I have to close off, get out, and then.
You know, we have done some international stuff before. Maybe we can rewatch it another day. It is something we touch on every once in a while. So I'm not saying we completely ignore the international stuff. I'm just saying I'm prioritizing right now. But if you stick around the channel long enough, you will, if you stick around the channel and you watch the content, because we do this almost every single day, you will get a flavor for every single thing the left is doing. Although I do tend to focus on some topics more than others. So we will, I'm not saying we'll never do international stuff. I'm just saying right this moment.
Return in order to hear people. The first thing to say is gratitude to to you, Kevin, to Kieran, Sarah, and Charmaine for bringing us together. And I'm trying to get my head around Glasgow, London, and Minneapolis. Charmaine referred to class composition and its origins in Italy over the Olivetti typewriter factory, I guess, in the 1950s. From that same explosion of ideas that we associate with Italian autonomous Marxism is the notion of the social factory.
The social
and I think
factory.
that might also help. It helps me think about internationalism. It helps me think about the home, and it helps me think about the street and the stationary workplace. So I want to recover this notion of the social factory. And it's
What's
just
that
so
mean?
useful to think of the street. I think of the blockades in Oakland and
The
in Seattle.
street is the
at the
social
ports,
factory.
where street people, dockers, warehouse people will meet. Yeah.
That's what I thought it would
so-
be. That's what I thought it would be, because Owen liked my tweet when I said, for the love of God, Chris, can you just integrate with Rumble? Owen liked that tweet, and he liked my thank you tweet. So that's kind of what I thought he was going to talk about.
I'm a big one for the street, for the right
Thank
of
you.
chiminage, to go back to
We're
the Middle
gonna
Ages and the
Owen, Karlyn Borysenko. We have to do with him like we do with Harrison. We're gonna have to shame Owen in exactly the same way we shamed Harrison. And the thing of it is, Harrison knew how to pronounce my name. So I think Harrison actually knew better. I'm not sure Owen actually did know how to pronounce my name. He doesn't really know who the fuck I am. Like, he doesn't really know what the fuck I do. I think he saw an opportunity because, like, I was covering his stuff, and that's fine. I mean, I'm on board, like, whatever. But we need to now shame Owen Schroyer into learning how to pronounce my name. But that's okay. That's okay. We're still Owen supporters here, regardless.
charters of the forest and Magna Carta. Chiminage is the freedom to roam, the freedom to travel.
We only
from
had
one
to
place
shame
to
Harrison
another.
once before he
And
got
it's
the
a place
message.
that capital in its history is going to want to dominate and control.
Uh-huh.
As it links not just between factories in the division of labor, but cities and, of course, countries and oceans. Yeah, so I want to put the social factory back into our discussion. And of course, it's just, I learned so much, Kieran, from, and I think the whole world is, and
I'm
where
gonna pronounce
I'm
Owen's
speaking to
name
you
Ewan.
from
Exactly.
Ann Arbor, Michigan, and we are, I think, 12 hours or so from Minneapolis by road.
Probably true.
Nevertheless, the techniques of rapid response have come here too, as we try to resist the incursions and terrorism
Old commie.
of the police state, or the so 100,000 people mobilizing on the 23rd in 20-degree Fahrenheit freezing
Below.
Has really made a mark, I think, in our hearts and across the world. And we are still not recovering, but learning from it and building from it.
Guys, if you saw this guy walking down the street, would you think he was a communist? If you saw this guy walking down the street, would you think he was a leftist? You would think he was someone's grandpa. This is like someone's grandpa. This guy doesn't look like a hardened communist. I need people to really start, like, I get in my feed all the time. Karlyn, you need to dye your hair blue and get piercings to go undercover with them. Oh, do I? Oh, do I? Because this guy is an influencer of today's activists. And he's obviously a far leftist just by listening to him talk. He's an old hippie type. He was probably like with like Weather Underground people back in the fucking 70s.
Made a mark, I think,
these people
in our
have
hearts
influence,
and
guys.
across the world. And we are still not recovering, but learning from it and building from it. So I really, and for me personally, it's directly related to the indigenous struggle.
Oh, land back.
And to May Day.
May
That
Day.
is the claiming of the Mother Earth, of the Great Black Earth of the Northern Plains, similar in the Earth geology only to Ukraine. And the origins of May Day at Haymarket originated in the strikes against the McCormick factory, which was using
Yes. Extinction Rebellion is a really kind of like weird cultish leftist environmental justice group. So Extinction Rebellion are like, in the UK, Extinction Rebellion are like the people who glue themselves to the pavement, and it's not the same group, but it's kind of like this idea: the people who throw the soup on the pieces of artwork. In the United States, they do these big stunts. Like, they're not they are on the far left. Like they're fucking eco-terrorists. Let's say what it is. It's like these are the people who will do terrorism to stop the environment from being harmed. These are the people who are like the blow up the pipeline type people. That's who they are. But they're a weird kind of culty group. I've seen them many times in person. I saw them at May Day. I saw them at No Kings too. They actually had a bigger Extinction Rebellion in Boston had a bigger presence at the No Kings protest than they did at the May Day protest, which I thought was weird. They had a whole march at the No Kings protest. They had a big old fucking rally out in front of the church in Copley Square in Boston. I've seen them in New York when I was undercover with Antifa there. I'm pretty sure I've seen them other places too. But yeah, it's a weird little kind of leftist eco justice, like, blow up a pipeline type people. That's what that is.
To go into the labor process, Charmaine, using the mechanical reaper.
Oh God, Mizakan, why?
Shave the plains.
Why would you do that to us, Mizakan?
Give the Great Plains a buzz cut, and so doing, loss to the bison, loss to Native Americans, and then the struggle between the Ojibwe and Lakota people, and the mass hangings of Moncanto in 1862, when Abraham Lincoln had 32 or 36 people hanged at once on Christmas Day. Yeah, so that's a little bit of rethinking the Great Plains, which also I think is really important. That sign above.
You guys remember when we went to that presentation in the Institute for Research on Male Supremacism? And one of the presentations that we watched was about how we need to have equity with animals, and that we did not have true liberation from capitalism until the hierarchy between human and animal was also eliminated. Am I making that up, or was that something that we actually watched? I'm pretty sure we actually watched that.
Kevin, if we look at his image again, there above his head is a poster that has the word bread. And after Haymarket, of course, it was the Great Plains that entered into the worldwide provision of carbohydrates, of bread for the world. So I just wanted to put that in as a way of underlining the
like
importance
green anarchy, yes,
of Charmaine's comment about the world food supply and its history. And then I was so, happy to learn from Sarah to hear that Panther slogan, "Survival pending revolution."
She's a member of the Midnight Notes Collective.
And she,
great. Oh,
like
look at his teeth. Holy shit.
It's the word
Wow,
pending
bro.
is like a combination of money talk and history talk. It has
People
to do
give
with
me
time.
people give me shit because I've got a crooked tooth right here, and they think I'm missing a tooth. I'm not. It's just that my tooth is crooked. People give me shit for that. But look at this guy's fucking mouth. I mean, come on. Like, I may not have perfect teeth, but I'm doing better than some.
And it has to do with debt.
No, I'm never getting braces. Fuck that shit.
So
I had
there's-
braces that didn't work.
There's some humor
I
in
also
it
did it with a retainer.
because we want survival. We're fighting for survival. And I guess this is the most exciting thing
There's worse
happening
things
in the world. Is
There's worse things in the world than crooked teeth, and braces are one of those things.
doing this not just with mutual aid, but in forms of commoning, forms of forming different reforming communities around resources and around a commons. I mentioned this, and I think it's something that we all want to return to, because when we say pending revolution, we think, well, what is revolution and what comes after revolution, and how do we get there? Boy, those questions have me stopped for a minute. Oh yeah, I do want to get back to something that Kieran spoke about. I mean, I think, and it's related to choke points. I'm I really want to learn more about the Somali and Ethiopian populations in the Twin Cities.
Oh, in Minneapolis. Yeah, let's learn more
in
about the
relationship
Somalians.
to this,
Good question.
the political discussions in Ethiopia and Somalia. And
They hear about Somali fraud in Minneapolis, and they're like, but do they support communism? Do the Somalis support the revolution?
ISIS direct attack. And in light of that, I also want to mention an article that I read yesterday by Robin Kelly,
Robin
the great,
D.G. Kelly.
the historian of African American freedom struggle, and his most recent book called Making a Killing, which combines both the Thanatocratic project that we live in a dominion of death with profiteering. Making a Killing has both meanings: the assassination of people in the streets, with its long history back through capital punishment, through lynching, through public hangings, to informal assassination. So this regime of death is meaning its opposite in our struggle. When he used the expression of "they served their time," that is to me again another profound comment about citizenship, about society, and about, of course, time. Serving their time. I mean, we are all serving time in this death-dealing system, and I think of the people in their 20s, their teenagers or young people in their precarious life of what kind of future do we have? What kind of horizon can we build? And I think it's incumbent on us and on our class to describe and to elevate to that future. In contrast, a future of life and of mutuality,
Chris,
of cooperation, and of. So I think what we also desperately need is a moral and cultural revolution.
Oh yeah, cultural revolution. You think so?
I mean, there are many ways of approaching that.
He's a communist, of course he is.
But I think it is deeply serious, and our art, our imaginations, our love in the streets with one another, our love in the struggle. It's out of that our imagination achieves its vitalities. Yeah, that's true enough.
All right, bro. We gotta get a move on here. Come on.
Yeah, I'm still.
Gotta get move on.
Relationship between the home, the natal policies, and the immigrant workers in the Glasgow factories. So I just want to return to basics, Charmaine, and to add, to your notion of class composition, is largely within the working class. And I think you're quite correct to see the divisions there through the labor process. But let's remember the labor process has two elements to it: the constant element and the variable element.
Oh yeah.
In its production of value. And the constant element, we think of so-called natural resources, machines, and tools. So there's a conflict between the owners of machines, tools, and natural resources,
property,
and the variable part of us,
workers,
of workers,
proletariat.
So what I'm thinking now is, what is the relationship between the organic composition? Also has to do with class struggle. In fact, it's another way, I would argue, of describing class struggle.
It doesn't matter if it's boring, guys. You sit through it.
are so good at saying the details of the labor process.
This is
in
research,
Al-Quadi,
not
And
entertainment.
as you yourself show with the internationalism of choke points. But now I'm thinking, sitting here in Ann Arbor, I'm just a few miles away from a huge battle over a new data center in Saline Township. And it's the AI. Is the AI like playing a role similar to what
The data centers are the next big thing they're going after, by the way. I'm not sure I think that that's a bad thing. Let them fuck around a little bit. I'm just making mention that I'm starting to see a lot of protests around the data centers. The data centers is something that's just like, it's coming up now almost as much as like anti-ICE organizing is. So that's something we need to keep an eye on.
steam engine played, several centuries ago as a fetish organizing object that will deeply recompose the labor process. First of all, by, as they say in England, creating massive redundancies, or as we say in the United States, unemployment. And an answer to that is going to be in the carceral state. The development of prisons, detention centers, these vast places that are on a scale similar to the AI
it's kind of
operations.
Like they want to fuck up data centers. I'm kind of like,
are also
carry on. I'm like, socialists, I won't even drag you for this one. I would like, socialists think I oppose them on everything because I'm a fascist. Well, I am a fascist, but like, if you guys want to fuck up the data centers, I'm not going to cause problems for you for that. I'm not going to worry about it too much. Go ahead.
Appearing all over Turtle Island here.
Turtle Island.
There's a history to that as well.
He just called the United States Turtle Island.
To the reservation.
That means stolen land.
So it's these two sides that I think I'm trying to think together. The incarceration of the working class, and when I say working class, I'm speaking of the world working class. I'm speaking of the people with fantastic experience who come to us, as Kieran was saying, from Nicaragua, from Guatemala, as Charmaine referred, from Laos, people from all over the world who have been expropriated, who have that memory, who have that knowledge of expropriation, of a loss of relationship to the earth, a loss of relationship to the quote, natural resources, the communities, the villages, the different forms of the commune. That loss is an aspect that drives people, into the refugee camps, so that they're in between the AI and the incarceration is a mobile world.
Did you guys know? Did you guys hear? Apparently some of Thomas Massey's text messages got released. And apparently the nickname that Thomas Massey has for his dick is Pine Cone. Now you know information I didn't need to know, but now you know it too. You're welcome.
Of boat
Pine
people,
Cone.
of the refugee, and of the
What does that even mean?
Is the means of control, and that border is where the state steps
Pine
in.
Cone.
This is what I'm thinking recently. That's how the state is trying to control this relationship between the class and this and its recomposition on this vast scale through AI.
It means he's got a sharp dick.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means either.
That's about as far as I got in my thinking beforehand. But then, when I hear the three of you, I am so encouraged. I am so encouraged by...
Yeah, we give Thomas Massey a pass. Thomas Massey can call his dick whatever he wants to.
By the rigor of your
He is a god among men. He is a national treasure.
Truthfulness.
Yeah, probably short and girthy.
And by the
probably
tasks,
not.
that we
what I think.
are facing. And I think so.
Okay, we got to fast forward, bro. I'm falling asleep here. We got other shit to do. Let someone else talk. Okay, they're gonna do a Q&A now. They're gonna do a little discussion now. Who the fuck is that?
Wonderful. I think I'm seeing everyone's sides. Peter, is Peter back with us?
Yeah, where's Peter?
Chris, if you could just give me a shout in the chat. Peter dropped. Okay, I'll ask the question, and there we go. Peter's rejoined. Fantastic.
Here we go.
Challenge.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Oh,
We
that's
hear you great.
Philip. I was
Thanks,
like,
I misread something on my screen saying that I was dragging on too much.
Oh no, I think it was the question and answers because of course
I'm getting too much information all at once, and I don't know what to pay attention to.
these people are winning and we're losing, guys.
I wanted to, with due respect, did I go over time?
Yes, Peter, you
Go
did.
ahead, Peter. Finish your.
No.
And also, I'll ask that one, or everyone else on this call has as well, and many of the comrades watching. And you're still learning from our efforts, and still learning from the world is really something that that gives me hope. We have a couple of questions. We have a question, of course, from the YouTube channel, so I'll ask that one as well. But I think I want to start here with some of the comments that were raised, and also it's hard to think about this moment without talking about grief and revolution. And of course, this is the subject of Sarah's most recent book. It's hard to think about this moment without thinking about the extrajudicial murders of Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy this winter, the cruel homicide of Nurul Hamid Shah Alam, a nearly blind non-English-speaking Rohingya refugee from Myanmar, as well as those who have been stolen from our communities, with over 14 deaths last time I checked in ICE custody since the first of the year. So I want to ask the panelists, how do we grieve while not allowing our grief from preventing us surviving revolution? And I'll just open it up.
I'm gonna turn that down a little bit. I turned up the
Feel free,
speaker
anyone.
high.
Anyone? Okay. Since I wrote the book on grief, I can jump in if you want, because I just spent the week. The reason I was in Italy was doing some more book talks, and the way I was ending every single one of those was actually talking about what's been going on in Minneapolis this year. So again, Kieran, thank you for giving us all some hope in this benighted misery that everything is. You know, I wrote a weird book about grief. One of the inspirations actually for it was Peter's writing in The London Hanged about capital punishment and the punishments of capital. And I think
capital punishment and
there are so many ways that like the movement is grieving, right? The fact that so many more people came out into the streets after Renee Good was killed, after Alex Preddy was killed, that rather than looking at that and going, oh my God, I'm staying home because I might get shot, the response was to come out stronger, I think is really incredible. And I don't want to step on Minneapolis too much, but one of the people that I profile in that book is actually a Somali worker from Minneapolis who used to work at Amazon and was part of the incredible organizing that the Wood Center did at the Amazon warehouse, and then now drives for Uber. So he's at the sort of tip of the spear of tech gigification and all of that stuff. And you know, we had this fascinating conversation about all sorts of things to do with his work and his life in Minneapolis. And then he just told me like he was just back from Somalia and his wife and kids had actually moved back there. And he was back in Minneapolis driving for Uber to make enough money to put his kids in private school in Somalia so that they could stay, and grew up there. And I thought that was such an important part of the story because, you know, American language is like, these are people from shithole countries who can't wait to come to the US and blah, 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 whatever, and have such a great life. And actually he was working in the US so that his family could go back to the country that, you know, Donald Trump repeatedly describes as a shithole, because he wanted his family to be able to grow up where they were from and to experience a culture that he found actually much more pleasant, welcoming, and home-like than the one we have. And that was sort of the story I wanted to tell about immigration and grief, is like in the US, in the UK, and in the sort of receiving countries, the story is often like, these people just really want to come here because it's so great here. And the story is actually, as Charmaine was saying, that people are coming here because we are fucking up their countries at home.
Maybe I'll kick it to Kieran for some comments. I mean, clearly your work as an
people
anti-fascist
have to come
union
here because
organizer
we're
over the last few
fucking up their
decades, and
countries.
Minneapolis
Okay,
has really
maybe they
led the
should
way on
unfuck
this.
them.
How are you all thinking about this post some of those uprisings? Turn to Peter and Charmaine for comments, and then we'll move on to another question.
I'm sorry, Kevin. I missed part of the question there. Sorry.
No worries. That's the realities of this tech, right? Would love to hear your thoughts as a lifelong anti-fascist and union organizer. And, you know, Minneapolis has really led the way for those of us in the United States and internationally, and interested in how you're thinking about this question of survival, and surviving and building our movements after Minneapolis.
Yeah, I was hesitant to raise my hand to answer the question because I don't I feel like me personally and like a lot of us haven't really been able to give ourselves time to figure out, and I'm probably resting on all kinds of, ways I was raised and stuff too that aren't necessarily all that helpful towards navigating this kind of stuff. And also feeling sort of like, when the moment is on, like, I'm all for self-care, but I also feel like sometimes that's not my priority, and I don't have any problem saying that, but yeah, I mean, I think there's like a lot of people that are, not, have been impacted by this psychologically, socially, relationships. A friend of mine was telling me about how many relationships they know that have split up, during the wake of the ICE stuff. And I think there's just like an incredible amount of attention and stress. And also, like what happened during the uprising, I think it's a moment too where people feel ready to call out injustices in their own personal relationships as well, and maybe be ready to move on. And so it's something I'm still learning, I guess. But it is, I think maybe what is useful for me to take from it is that we're entering this period of like mass struggle and mass repression that we're going to have to learn. We're going to have to get better at doing this just to be able to, maintain our sanity and our health, and also our ability to fight back. And I think there's lots of ways that have been really good. Like, I mean, we wouldn't have survived if people hadn't figured out how to do, mutual aid and been so giving of their time. I'm really proud of my son and his partner. We're really, tight with some immigrant families on their block, and help get people through. And that happened like among thousands and thousands of people. So, but it's kind of like learning as we go too much too. I think that's how you have to learn, right? But we should hopefully not have to repeat some of the same things. And yeah, I think I'm just kind of caught now.
Appreciate that, Karen. Peter and Charmaine, would you like to jump in before we move to another question?
Move on.
Wonderful. Okay. So this comes from our comrades on YouTube who've posted for us.
Comrade.
Curious to hear more of Sarah's thoughts on tenant struggles and the intersection with labor organizing. More specifically, how might labor unions better support tenants? How might tenants move towards consciousness of themselves as a class within the working class? And what are the tensions you see between tenant and worker class compositions and underexploited opportunities?
So basically, the communists want to know, how can we bring the communists in the labor unions together with the communists in the tenant unions so that we can all be communists together and all do organizing together?
And then, in addition to that, to Charmaine's comments, how do we think about solidarities and collective power across international fragmented working class whose social production is segmented and pitted against each other? And maybe Charmaine
Had some good ones this year, Master Shake. They're talking a lot about fascism.
Yeah, well, that is the question, and I think it's an excellent one that I think Peter's work has taught us a lot about, that Kieran and Sarah have helped us think about. I think that, what I was trying to offer is that sometimes thinking across the scale of the supply chain can be really daunting, because you think about the Chinese worker far away who's making the goods that you will never see and meet. And it can feel incredibly disempowering to understand that what supply chain capitalism does in moving things around the world in hypermobile ways makes it feel as if any place-based solidarity feels useless given the kind of spatial mobility of the supply chain. And I really think that thinking through what it means to concretize those forms of internationalism within the workplaces where we are is the only way through. We've seen it throughout the histories of workers' movements, all the way from enslaved people fighting for—
So they're talking about disrupting the supply chain? Is that what I'm hearing?
Or each other across massive links in transatlantic slavery, all the way till plantation marriage, all the way to the ways in which refugees today are trying to build solidarity within detention centers, right? And these are all, I think, moments for us to be, I think, I guess what I would say is that in my long experience, both kind of like sketching the mass scales of these supply chains at an analytic level, and then trying to do organizing at the grounded level, is that often those two things don't come together easily. There's all this stuff, we can say all we want in the world about the totality of the capitalist system. And then when it comes to recruiting salts to organize at Amazon, which many of my comrades have been working on for the last 8 years.
They're talking about salting? Hang on.
We've seen it throughout the histories of workers' movements, all the way from enslaved people fighting for each other across massive links in transatlantic slavery, all the way till plantation marriage, all the way to the ways in which refugees today are trying to build solidarity within detention centers, right? And these are all, I think, moments for us to be, I think, I guess what I would say is that in my long experience, both kind of like sketching the mass scales of these supply chains at an analytic level, and then trying to do organizing at the grounded level, is that often those two things don't come together easily. There's all this stuff, we can say all we want in the world about the totality of the capitalist system. And then when it comes to recruiting salts to organize at Amazon, which many of my comrades have been working on for the last 8 years, when it comes to actually building.
They have been salting unions at Amazon for 8 years. For people who don't know, last year I went inside a 3-week DSA SALT training. I'm pretty sure it was last year, maybe earlier this year, in which we spent 3 weeks with the Democratic Socialists of America. And we have this all on video of them talking explicitly how they are getting people jobs in these workplaces, with Amazon being a big one that they're working on, to basically agitate for unions. So the DSA has an entire network nationwide of people who are getting people jobs in places like Amazon, in places like Starbucks, in places like the airports, in places like anything that they can use to disrupt the supply chain. They are getting people into these jobs specifically with having them agitate to create unions while they are there, or organizing around the unions. That is called salting. It's not about going to work for Amazon. It's about getting into Amazon to agitate to form a union. Why are they doing this? Because this all leads up to the May Day 2028 mass general strike, where they're going to shut down the economy. They want as many unions and workplaces as possible that they have people in all over the country, because the more unions they have, the more organized they are, the more the mass strike 2 years from now is going to be effective. They've been doing this for 8 years at Amazon. 8 years. That's insane. This is how long-term the left thinks, guys. They are not playing the short game. They are playing the long game, and they always have been.
That SALT recruitment into a strategy that looks like a formidable organizing committee that can actually take power in these factories and warehouses. It's another question altogether, right? So there is, I think, in a way, I have a very humble response to this question, which is that unless we're actually learning how to do this in our own workplaces and asking where we are situated within points of knowledge production, service production, social reproduction together, and trying to figure out where that hooks into the question, we're lost, right? Because there's no way for us to begin at the scale of the international. So just to give you a very quick example, in my own workplace at the University of California, what we've been doing is to start a collective called Researchers Against War that is really about trying to take seriously our place as knowledge researchers in a machine that is federally funded by the Department of Defense, map the ways in which our own, reproduction of that war machine happens through the creation of basic science research that creates the preconditions for later defense technologies, and to ask how we can invite other workers to organize around pledging not to receive Department of Defense funding. So that's just one way, right? Feels humble, doesn't feel particularly exciting, but it is a way of hooking where we are now to the question of what that internationalist horizon looks like in terms of where we have responsibility.
Okay. All right. Guys, we are almost done, but we're going to have to stop a little bit early because I have to get the other stream started up. We're almost done, though. I think we got all the good stuff. I'm glad we got to that salting bit because that was important. But alas, we have other things to do. We have MacB's movie night in the supporter Discord where he is watching a monster movie tonight. I think it's Destroy All Monsters. MacB, correct me if I'm wrong. And MacB, I have to beg your pardon and beg your indulgence because I have been cajoled and bribed into covering the Kino Casino. I'm so sorry, MacB, but I want everyone to go to MacB's movie night in the Discord. He has such a great lineup of monster movies this month, like really old school stuff. It's so cool. I love that he's doing it. He runs movie nights every Monday night at 9 p.m. And I promised him I wasn't going to cover the casino tonight. But it's the great Otis's fault. I have to do it. And so I'm sorry, Mac B. I'm sorry, but I'm encouraging everyone to go to movie night because I think he does a real good job, and I really appreciate him. And I know it may not always seem like that, but I definitely do. I definitely do. We are also going to be covering the Kino Casino because I have been bribed, begged, and cajoled into doing so. And if Chrissy Mayer really is a prostitute, I kind of want to know about that, and I want to appreciate that. But I want to thank everyone who came out today and gifted 102 channel memberships. I want to thank everyone who sent in super chats. You guys allow me to do what I do. I love covering the far left in America. I love teaching you guys about it. Thank you for allowing me to do it. I've got so much cool stuff coming. Maybe we're going to talk about it a little bit tomorrow. But for right now, we're going to call this stream a wrap. And I'm going to go get the other stream set up for the casino. And we're going to be right back. All right, guys. Take care.